All right. We should be live. We should be live for another day of politics. The final day for the fall sitting of Parliament. We are currently watching an aquarium in Baltimore, Maryland, as I set up the other streams here on YouTube, Rumble, and Kick. Getting things going here. Rumble takes its sweet time, but it eventually gets going. Need to copy over the titles and everything. We have a lot to go over today. There's a lot to go over today. And I decided to go early, or live minutes earlier, because things are kicking off in the Freedom of Speech, the Bill C-9 Stis and Human Rights Committee. So we have a bit of that to watch. It's also the last day of Parliament, so I figured let's go live and do an extra long live stream to get things going. Rumble, please, today, not tomorrow. Thank you. Alrighty. We're gonna swap over from the aquarium to the big news. This is probably the best view I have for this. Yeah, so I'm just gonna do that. The big news going on right now. The United States seized a oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela, and we have footage like this that I don't think we have seen in a very long time of, like, the US military actively doing things. An active operation, I guess you could say. Like, something like this hasn't happened, I feel like, in a very long time. I could be wrong, but, like, this is crazy stuff. No audio, but you got the Black Hawk helicopters. They rappel down onto the oil tanker. Check out this footage. It is so cool. I mean, cool in some degree, but it's like some Call of Duty stuff, man. Just saying. Seizing the oil tanker. I don't know how many people were on board. It honestly looks like a pretty empty ship in terms of, like, personnel on board. But there you have it. I mean, just the US military in action. Like, there has to be a crew of some degree, but it just looks like a ghost town. And not to say, like, there's supposed to be a ton of people on the ship constantly, but, like, it doesn't look like there's a single crew member on that ship. Maybe they ran in to hide as they saw the helicopters approaching. I don't know. But we have a lot of stuff to go through here.
President Trump making his boldest move yet against Venezuelan strongman Nicolas Maduro, confirming U.S. forces have seized an oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela.
From the standpoint of news, as you probably know, we've just seized a tanker on the coast of Venezuela, large tanker, very large. Largest one ever seized, actually.
Very, very huge.
And other things are happening, so you'll be seeing that later, and you'll be talking about that later with some other people.
Alex Gray, former National Security Council Chief of Staff under President Trump, joins me now. Alex, good morning to you. Some more details here from AG Pam Bondi, who says for multiple years the oil tanker has been sanctioned by the United States due to its involvement in an illicit oil shipping network supporting foreign terrorist organizations. So what more do you know about this and why all of this went down yesterday?
Well, Carly, it's hard to overstate how big of a deal this is, as the president alluded to. After years of allowing the Maduro regime to easily evade sanctions, which is the lifeblood. The oil money is the lifeblood of this repressive regime. And the president's decision to order such an impressive array of U.S. forces to go in and finally stop this glaring example of the Maduro regime flouting international law and U.S. sanctions. This, I think, is the beginning of a seismic shift in how the United States puts pressure on Maduro. And my guess is, Carly, I think this is the beginning of a very concerted economic as well as military pressure campaign that's going to give Maduro a very tough series of options over the next few weeks.
I honestly wonder, because there's a lot of talk about if they're actually going to put boots on the ground in Venezuela. And this looks like it could potentially be the first of many steps to do so. It also could just be, hey, we're going to start taking over all your oil tankers, and then you have no way of supplying your regime further, which, I mean, yeah, that would make sense. In terms of how, I guess, the rest of the world is seeing this, I don't know. I don't know if this... Is this considered, like, the first act for a war or something? Like, seizing an oil tanker? I don't know. I don't know. I'm not saying it's extreme, because obviously, like, the way I look at it is, the US has probably some of the best satellite UAV imagery tracking technology out of probably every country, maybe other than like China or whatever. I don't know. It's hard to say what China's cooking up. But what I will say is back in like the early 2000s, they had state-of-the-art UAV drone technology. And now 24, 25 years down the road, I can only imagine the US would have better technology, right? Just based on how everything's gone, right? Putting two and two together. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to know this. They would be constantly tracking these tankers or the drug boats, the cartels, right? The technology they have to track these individuals must be insane. Whether or not they can actually do it, I have no idea. I have no idea. I don't know anything about the law of the water or how it comes to them seizing this boat or this tanker. But what I do know is the footage is incredibly cool. And I don't know if they're going to continue to do this. I guess we'll see what happens.
A large oil tanker was seized by the U.S. off the coast of Venezuela yesterday. Let's bring in Senate Armed Service Committee member, Senator Tim Sheehy, to join us now. Senator, your reaction to this move? I mean, it was 48 hours ago where we had our fighter jets penetrate their airspace. Now we took an oil tanker, and the response has been pretty direct. They say we're essentially that we're just stealing their oil. What's your reaction?
Well, as you may know, we've been sanctioning tankers out of Venezuela and many other countries for years, and seizing oil tankers is actually not uncommon for us to do. In 2014, my old community, the SEALs, parachuted in and seized an oil tanker, the Morning Glory in the Mediterranean, which was also smuggling illicit oil, because many of these rogue regimes and terrorist organizations use sometimes unflagged vessels or wrongly flagged vessels to move oil around to fund their illicit operations, or use those tankers to smuggle other substances like drugs or weapons. So this seizure was legal. It was important against a murderous regime.
Senator, do you think we're making progress in getting Maduro out? A lot of people think that's going to be done when you infiltrate the military and let them know they have no future unless they leave Maduro out. He's surrounded by Cubans. Do you have a way forward here?
I think it's important that the Venezuelan people will decide their way ahead. Obviously, we've seen the will of the Venezuelan people repeatedly repressed for a long time by the Maduro regime. As you saw, their former exiled leader was awarded the Nobel Prize here recently and had to sneak out of the country to get there. So the will of the Venezuelan people has been repressed by Maduro. The Venezuelan people will be the ones to decide whether he continues to run that country or not. But what we need to do is put America first, protect the American people from the scourge of fentanyl. And Venezuela is the primary actor in that, so we're well within our rights, and we should be continuing this campaign to protect Americans from these terrible drugs poisoning our country.
So a lot of people aren't happy on the left with Secretary of War Pete Hegseth going after, in some cases, more than one strike to take out a boat. So one congresswoman is filing articles of impeachment. Let's listen.
I introduced articles to impeach Secretary Pete Hegseth for murder and conspiracy to murder and reckless and unlawful mishandling of classified information. His actions are not sensible but illegal.
That's a woman?
As well.
I'm sorry, that was Congressman, one of them, but he's over the signal check.
Oh, okay. Oh my god. I was like, wait, what? What's going on here?
What's your thoughts about the continuing to harass our Secretary of War?
I think it's a disgrace, and they should be ashamed of themselves. Where were these people? Where was their outrage when tens of thousands of Americans were being poisoned from coast to coast with these drugs? That's where the real murder was occurring.
All right, so Senator, you did something really admirable on Pearl Harbor Day, December 7th. You jumped out of a plane and you have reclaimed the world record with the massive jump of our flag and beat Libya. And describe this jump and what went into it.
Well, listen, it was a handful of folks. I was honored to be a small part of the team. We had a great retired Ranger Jericho.
Okay, moving on to the next Venezuela video.
The U.S. seizing an oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela. That marks a major escalation in the crackdown against narco-terrorism. So we're watching this today. We're doing fine. Had a good night last night and a great day this morning. In New York, I'm Bill Hammer. And you?
My tip to everybody is this. If you go out on a weeknight and you have a great time, the next morning if someone says, how are you doing? You have to say,
Great.
Better say great. Great, I'm great. So I'm Dana Perino, and this is America's Newsroom. And truly, Fox News threw a wonderful holiday party. It was the best part. I had a great time. Cool. But we also have news. So Attorney General Pam Bondi releasing dramatic video of the daring operation, and it shows U.S. forces swooping in from a helicopter above the vessel and then landing on the deck of the ship with their weapons drawn. At the White House, President Trump called the seizure more than justified.
From the standpoint of news, as you probably know, we've just seized a tanker on the coast of Venezuela, a large tanker, very large. Largest one ever seized, actually. And other things are happening, so you'll be seeing that later. It was seized for a very good reason.
So now all of this is expected to be a major point of discussion. House hearing gets underway a little bit later this hour on the worldwide threats to the U.S. homeland. Let's get right to it. Bill Maloogian reports from the Hill. Jillian Turner reports from the State Department. Let's start there with you, Jillian, on what's happening with regard to Venezuela. Good morning.
So good morning to you, Bill and Dana. Overnight, Venezuela's leaders reacting to that seizure of the crude oil tanker. They are accusing the U.S. of theft and President Trump of blatantly trying to take control of the country's entire oil resources. Here's the Interior Minister. Listen.
The Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela denounces and repudiates energetically what constitutes a blatant theft and an act of international piracy, announced publicly by the President of the United States, who confesses the assault of an oil ship in the Caribbean.
Reporters asked President Trump yesterday what now happens to all of the oil aboard that ship. Here's what he said.
We're interested in the seizure of this tanker. What happens to the oil on this ship?
Well, we keep it, I guess.
Where does it go? What port does it go to?
Well, you have to follow the tanker. You know, you're a good newsman, just follow the tanker. I assume we're going to keep the oil.
The Attorney General posting that footage of the seizure on social says the FBI, Homeland Security, and U.S. Coast Guard executed this operation with some support from the War Department. The U.S., it turns out, we are learning, had issued a warrant for this oil tanker, alleging it was used to transport illegal oil from Venezuela and Iran in support of foreign terrorist groups. Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro, meanwhile, has been rallying his supporters in Caracas.
No more Vietnam, no more Somalia, no more Iraq, no more Afghanistan, no more Libya, no blood for oil.
So we learned from the president himself yesterday he has not spoken with Maduro since their shock phone call last week. In a sense, it's not surprising, though, because the president since then has continued to push for his ouster and still does not recognize Maduro as the legitimate leader of Venezuela.
That is quite the speech, quite the soundbite there. Jillian, thank you. We're watching all of it. Thanks, Department of State. Back now to our top story. Keep a very close eye on this. Breaking news, the U.S. stepping up its fight against narco-terrorism, seizing a tanker off the coast of Venezuela that was carrying sanctioned Iranian oil. President Trump says the operation was done for, quote, a very good reason. Let's get some analysis, a bit more. Rebecca Heinrichs, National Security.
All right, yeah, they're pretty much just repeating themselves at this point. But yeah, the footage is crazy, crazy stuff. Moving onward to Canadian politics. I just want to thank everybody joining on YouTube, Rumble, and Kick. Let's get right into it.
Mark Wiseman, who the Prime Minister is familiar with already, used to be the head of CPPIB, that's Canada Pension Fund, BlackRock.
The digital ID is back. Welcome back to Moose on Loose. My name's David. Today we are finding the Liberals have snuck in a digital ID app out of nowhere. There's a lot of tie-in with the EU. We also got Mark Wiseman back in the news here. It seems very likely he'll be the new ambassador to the US. We've got a bunch of stuff here. Let's jump into this. Starting this one off, we got David Eby in the news here. BC NDP volunteer is hunting for 2-month office rental starting at the end of January. So it looks like he's going to pull a snap election end of January here because, well, the BC Conservatives don't have a leader now. John Rustad stepped down. There's an interim leader. There's talk of people coming forward now, but there's no leaders. Is he going to pull a dirty trick here and try to get a majority government with a new mandate in British Columbia for 4 years while the Conservatives don't have a leader? This would be some dirty politics. But then again, this is David Eby. This guy's a...
yeah, it's David Eby. It wouldn't shock me at all. And I feel bad for the people of BC if they end up doing this. At least the ones who don't vote for the NDP. I mean, like, my God. If you still vote for the NDP after everything that's happened there, I think you need to get your head checked.
Rat. I bring this up as it has major federal effects on Canada because if we get a Conservative government in BC, then that pipeline, well, there's going to be no more pushback from the Premier. Moving ahead, we've got this bombshell news, which the media is not talking about, and they should be. EU and Canada agreed to collaborate on digital ID mutual recognition pilots. New Digital Partnership Council inks MOU in first meeting. So it goes on to say here that Continental Bloc and the country signed a memorandum of understanding on digital credentials, digital identity wallets, and trust services, one of the several deals to work together on emerging technologies. Goes on to say now that EU and Canada will explore the creation of a dedicated forum for regular expert dialogue to facilitate joint testing of credentials, including those using digital identity wallets. They will collaborate on joint use cases and pilot projects to advance cross-border interoperability, building on Canada's new digital ID framework and the EU digital identity wallet framework. The respective governments will also work together on sharing information and best practices, jointly test digital credential technology, and explore approaches to standards formation and discuss the path to future mutual recognition, according to the MOU contained within the parties' joint statement. This should be alarming for everyone. They want to have more control over us. That's why they're doing this, and that's why the EU's involved, because look what's happening in their countries, there, especially the UK. They're locking down their citizens for even criticizing someone or posting a meme on X. They come and arrest you for 6 months. But if you're a migrant from Africa, you can go R-word multiple young women and you get away with it. This is so completely messed up. Like, civil war is bound to break out in the UK. Like, it's just a matter of time here. It's already getting quite restless, and they want to have more control over the people. They see what they're doing in China, where they have full control over people, digital scores, scanning people's faces when you cross the street, if you be able to go buy food. They want to have ultimate control over people, and this is the start of it. There's a couple people posting this here. Ryan Garrettson saying the same thing. It's been 2 days since this digital ID partnership between Canada and EU was announced, and our media hasn't mentioned one word about it. Of course they haven't. It's hella sus. Yeah, it is. The libs set up distractions so no one's paying attention. They do this all the time. They have other big stories that kind of take up the media, and then they slip this stuff in the back door. They always do this. So a bunch of people posting, this is on the App Store now. This is the GC Government of Canada wallet early access. Don't download this. They'll take your information. I would not download this. And here's a closer look at it. This app is in development. Be one of the first to try and provide feedback. No, never. I don't want your government app. Look at this guy's post here. Here's the crazy part. We're partnering with the EU on this digital ID, which will track spending. We all know this. While EU tracks their food carbon score on packaging, when you buy this, the government will know, when you go over your carbon limit, time to buy some more credits to offset your footprint. There it is. I didn't even have to say it. I didn't have to bring it up. The people are on it. This is not going to happen overnight, but it'll take a few years. Exactly. They're going to slowly roll this out as a carbon score and everything. If you need some more credits, don't worry. Mark Carney's going to be making money off the Frontier program from Stripe. Why? Because he's an early investor in it. All these guys set this up to win from this. You got to think too, who is Mark Carney put in charge of this? It's his Minister of AI, Evan Solomon, one of his right-hand men. Guy used to work with Mark Carney's wife, Diana Fox Carney, at the Eurasia Group. Of course he put one of his right-hand men on this, because it's one of the most important things to get the big payout. They won't make the big money if they can't roll this out. The carbon credit system here. Look how ridiculous this is. Carbon score. Eating this uses 8.1% of your daily dietary carbon allowance. Like, this is unbelievable. Happen here is once this system fully rolls out, the CBAM compliant system here, so anything that comes into Canada must be CBAM compliant, otherwise they have to buy carbon credits to offset their carbon score. And this is going to force third world countries that send, say, their bananas to us to pay for this stuff, and then it'll make the product so much more expensive here. Bananas are one of the only things that are still cheap in the grocery store. They haven't gone up in price. You can buy an entire bunch of bananas for like $1.50. After this rolls through, that bunch of bananas will be $3. $4, because the way that they grow the bananas, Mark Carney and the Liberals will deem not climate friendly, so they have to pay for that when really we have to pay for that. That's what they're doing here. They're going to ruin our lives with this system. And this isn't make-believe. They're already starting to do this in the UK, as we see here. This should be sending the alarm bells off for every single Canadian. With all this talk of Mark Wiseman, it does seem that he will be stepping in for this ambassador role. They're even talking about this on CTV, which is great news, because we all know how immigration is such a major topic in Canada right now. There's been way too many people brought in. It's breaking all of our systems, doctors, healthcare, schools, you name it. So if the average person can see this and put the pieces together here, that Mark Wiseman was one of the founders, creators of the Century Initiative, maybe they'd be like, maybe we shouldn't vote for those Liberals again.
Okay, but a lot of buzz about one name in particular, Mark Wiseman, who the Prime Minister is familiar with already, used to be the head of CPPIB, that's a Canada Pension Fund, BlackRock executive, as well as Alberta Investment Management Corporation. So quite the CV to bring with him. Is this a fait accompli, or are there other names being mulled about?
Yeah, so at this point, what we're hearing from sources is that Mark Wiseman will be named as Canada's next ambassador to the United States. As repeatedly today, the Prime Minister wouldn't confirm that. But I do think it is worth noting that the opposition Conservatives have all but decided that the sourcing indicating as much is solid and good to go. We saw a bit of a tense back and forth in question period today between Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre and the various Liberal ministers who rose to answer. The Prime Minister wasn't there. Seizing on Wiseman's role with the Century Initiative, this was a group calling for a massive uptick in the Canadian population through immigration, something Poilievre put forward as a contentious policy. The Liberal ministers who rose sought to essentially distance themselves from that, saying the policies of that initiative are not government policy.
Yeah, these guys are directly connected to the government. Justin Trudeau, Mark Carney, all these Liberals, they're all intertwined here. They're all doing this together. They're doing this to bring in so many people. They can bring down wages, and then they jack up housing and make everything expensive. Justin Trudeau has a real estate development company. There's no wonder he brought in so many people to increase real estate prices. We still don't know how many houses or condos or whatever, how much land he owns in that, because our ethics rules are so bad in this country.
Yes, at this point, it does look like this high-profile Canadian financier, who the Prime Minister did appoint to the Canada-U.S. Relations Committee panel earlier this year, is poised to step up. The Prime Minister indicating today, though, it's going to be probably a few weeks before this is all confirmed and official.
This is good news that they're talking about this on CTV. It's not good news Mark Wiseman likely stepping in, because that's the last guy we want in this position. This is going to make our relationship worse with Donald Trump, unless they're all in on this together. Maybe they're just going to push all our resources down to America to all jack their stocks down there. I don't know. With that, we have Mark Wiseman himself here describing the Century Initiative.
Century Initiative is still perceived by some as only focusing on the goal of growing the population to 100 million by 2100. Let me be clear. I still believe in the viability of that goal.
Well, first, let me thank the Globe and Mark Wiseman, Century Initiative, everyone for this very timely discussion. And
yeah, so you notice here, Globe and Mail presents. Why would that be? Because they're in on it, right on their own Wikipedia page here. Globe and Mail, right there. In March 2021, Globe and Mail hosted a virtual event in partnership with Century Initiative, examining key indicators, etc., moving Canada's population to 100 million by 2100. And once again, what key players do we always see in the epicenter of all this stuff? Dominic Barton says here, Century Initiative was founded in late 2009 as the Laurier Project Foundation by Mark Wiseman and Dominic Barton, who is head of McKinsey. So I'll be expanding on the chart here. Dominic Barton, we've got him connected to all these different companies, obviously McKinsey, Rio Tinto, Glencore, Tech, all of these. So he's wrapped up in the Century Initiative. No surprise they're bringing in Mark Wiseman, directly connected to all these liberals. Mark Carney was in that circle too as an advisor to Justin Trudeau for the past 5 years before he became Prime Minister. Going to the Century Initiative website, we have right here on June 7th, 2024, Century Initiative partnered with the Globe and Mail to present Building for Growth, Housing and Infrastructure for Expanding the Nation. That's not what they're doing. They're destroying our nation. That's why anything is salt, I vet it as best as possible, try to cross-reference it, because who can you really trust here? There's a few media organizations I trust, and some of the other ones, it really comes down to who the individual is that's putting up the story, whether it's on Globe and Mail or CBC or CTV or whatever it may be. But even the mention of Mark Wiseman's already blowing up as like anti-Quebec because of increasing immigration. Quebec has been the only place that's pushed back against this nonsense, and they don't want to have more of it. So this bodes quite poorly for Mark Carney.
You know, wise men say that only fools rush in. The Prime Minister already made an appointment last week that turned the entire province of Quebec against him. Let's hope that he won't make the same mistake twice. When Mark Wiseman talks about imposing immigration policies on Quebecers, even it makes them howl, he demonstrates not only his contempt for Quebec, but also his contempt for democracy. There are 44 Quebecers among the Liberals. Is there at least one who will stand up and tell his leader to appoint someone else?
This is a very important point here. Not only Mark Wiseman, the Century Initiative guy who would be anti-Quebec with this mass immigration increase, but also the pipeline. It'd be curious to see what Mark Carney's numbers do here. Going to the next couple of weeks before Christmas, if there's any more polling, his numbers can't stay high in Quebec.
The Honourable Minister for Government Transformation. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The policy she is referring to for the 6th time in the House today, I want to reiterate, is not a Government of Canada policy, never will be. But if she does want to discuss culture, Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased with our Minister of Culture and our investment, $4.1 billion on culture, official languages. We asked the Bloc Québécois for something for the preparation of our budget. They didn't come up with anything for the cultural sector. Thank you very much.
Does Lightbound think we're dumb? This guy's been wrapped up with all these liberals for a long time. So him saying it's not official government policy is a joke. Trudeau basically rolled out that policy. That was the government policy, whether they claim it to be official or not.
The Honourable Member for Berthier-Masquinongé. Mr. Speaker, the Liberal drift towards authoritarianism continues after Bill C-5, which gives the federal government the power to bypass all legislation for its major projects, such as pipelines. Now we have Bill C-15. The Liberals are enshrining in law the right for all their ministers to break any law under the pretext of innovation. That's not all. Bill S-4, introduced by Liberal senators, all
right, we don't need to rewatch question period from yesterday, and pretty much the rest of this is just exactly that. We have a committee here, Bill C-9, the censorship bill that is being pushed by the Liberals hand over fist. It is causing a lot of drama in committee constantly. Like, every committee gets heated. People are always yelling, points of order this. Relevance to that, we have a bit of the committee here, as I did start the stream early. Then we were going to head into the White House press briefing. Maybe we'll get some info on the oil tanker that was seized, what's going to happen further with that. But let's get into this.
So that undermines this laudable goal and leads me to believe that it was this Bill C-9 was brought forward on a very faulty premise. It's also a faulty premise, Mr. Chair, because we know that many of the things that members have complained about or that members of our community have raised with us are real. I, for the last 8 years, just over 8 years, worked right downtown. My office was at Bay and King, Mr. Chair. And after October 7th, I played witness to marches right down the center of Toronto that I have never witnessed in my life. And, there are often protests downtown and, frankly, none of us, who used to work in ivory towers paid much attention to them. But this was different. Many times I and colleagues of mine out of the BMO Tower, First Canadian Place, went down to the street to see what this was about. And frankly, Mr. Chair, I was horrified to see what members of those protests, if you want to call them that, were saying, what clearly their views were based on what they were yelling, what they were arguing with people on the street. They were, I'm not a prosecutor, it's not my area of practice, so I leave that, whether it rose to the criminal code definition of hate speech. But as a layperson, it certainly seemed pretty hateful to me. And then I saw over the next months that progress to not only marching in downtown Toronto, but marching into northern Toronto, up Bathurst Street into Jewish neighborhoods. Now, again, I'm not an expert on protests, but you have to ask yourself, why do people want to go and protest in an area of our city that is heavily populated by one community, and one community only? So it doesn't take an expert to know that that section of the city was picked because of the members of the Jewish community that live there. And so I, again, as a layperson, I think that's pretty hateful. But this goes to my faulty premise, Mr. Chair, because those actions of those people in those protests are may have been already criminal. And I'll just mention a few of the provisions of the code that I think may have been at issue. Of course, leave it to the Crown and the police to make the ultimate determination. For example, in the code, section 63 for unlawful assembly, section 175, causing a disturbance, section 176, obstructing or disturbing religious worship or meetings, section 264, criminal harassment, section 264.1, uttering threats, certainly heard threats at those marches, sections 298 to 317, defamatory libel, section 423, intimidation, and section 430, mischief. Now, there may be other sections, Mr. Chair. That's just what I was able to glean in reading through the criminal code. And I would submit to members of the committee and to those who support Bill C-9 that what they are trying to achieve is already achievable in the criminal code. So the question then is, well, why are the police and the Crown prosecutors not going forward with this? And I think there's at least one reason that comes to mind. And I would suggest that it's a lack of political support and political will. And that's both at the municipal level of government with the City of Toronto and also at the federal level of government with the Liberal government. And I don't think it's unreasonable for police and prosecutors to want to have their political leaders stand up for them if they are going to enforce these provisions of the criminal code. But they don't. They don't, because they going back to Mr. Miller's comments, they hear comments from the government and from senior ministers about how they should understand what's happening in Toronto and other places across the country. And they don't see support for them to enforce these laws. So while I would encourage and in fact demand that the police enforce these laws that exist to protect our religious liberties, those of our Jewish community in this particular example, but of course to do that for all religious communities in this country. And I think all parliamentarians should expect the police to do that. But I understand why they may hesitate, because they do not have the support of the government. They do not have the support of the Prime Minister. They do not have the support of the Justice Minister, and they certainly don't have the support of the new Minister of Culture and Heritage. So, Mr. Chair, laudable goal, faulty premise to achieving it, unfortunately. The last thing I wanted to talk about in my submissions, Mr. Chair, was misplaced priorities. And that has been on full display here at the committee. Now, we have all heard the stories of violent offenders out on bail or being released on bail who then commit more violent offenses. And they've been across Canada. And I think, for example, one example, poignant, the case of Bailey McCourt. And as we've learned, the accused in that case, Mr. Plover, James Plover, was supposed to have gone through a consideration of various factors prior to being released. And of course, in that story, we know that Mr. Plover was released and committed a horrible murder of his former wife, I believe, his estranged wife, I should say. And that has shooken Canadians. And rightly so, it has shooken Canadians because Mr. Plover should never released. And I have a report on that. And Mr. Chair, maybe I could, I think this is important, especially for perhaps Mr. Chang, who this is part of in his province of British Columbia. I wonder if I could just have unanimous consent to table this report here with the committee as evidence, especially for Mr. Chang and other members of Vancouver from British Columbia. Would I have unanimous consent for that?
Do we have unanimous consent? No, we don't have unanimous consent.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, just to clarify, there's no unanimous consent?
There is no unanimous consent.
Yeah.
Point of order.
Yes, Mr. Locke.
Just with respect to my colleague, I know when we were suspended earlier, there were some discussions amongst parties, and Conservatives have always been willing to try to find a way forward on this. I just wanted to ask, given that the Minister of Justice is in Ottawa today, that the committee invite him to appear immediately in relation to Bill C-14.
Not a point of order.
I'm seeking unanimous consent, Chair, for the Minister to appear immediately on C-14.
I've heard it, no. Okay.
Well, they haven't heard what I'm asking unanimous consent for. They don't know that they're against it yet, unless they're against all requests to cooperate across
party lines. I understood what you were asking for, and I heard a no. So we're going back to Mr.
But I hadn't finished the request. But the Liberals don't want the Minister to be able to testify?
There wasn't a point of order anyway.
That's strange.
Mr. Mantle, continue, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just to recap my understanding of my request, so there's no unanimous consent to table information
Correct.
About the case of Bailey McCourt.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. That's unfortunate. I don't know why members of the Liberal Party would not want more information about a very serious case, but Canadians can make their own judgments on what that says about the priorities of the Liberal members of the Justice Committee and what they want to talk about. I mean, they can say it's nonsense, they can heckle nonsense, but I leave it to Canadians to decide for themselves what they think those priorities are.
I'm sure there's a lot of Canadians asking those questions today, Mr. Mantle. So I just, rather than, ascribing motives and things to other people, let's stick to the core discussion here.
Mr. Chair, I completely agree with you. And on the record, I did not suggest their motives. I said others, the public can make their own determinations on that. But
this chair does not hesitate to just bash the Conservative MPs every minute he can. Whenever he gets the opportunity, it's like, holy Christ, man. He really doesn't like the Conservative MPs, and it's quite obvious. Every interaction.
But going back to my discussion, misplaced priorities, Mr. Chair, they are misplaced. The members of this committee, I think, and I will make a statement here, I think the members of the Liberal Party on this committee have misplaced priorities by not wanting to discuss issues of bail and sentencing reform. We have asked numerous times to go to consideration of Bill C-14, the Bail and Sentencing Reform Act, which the government says is an important piece of their criminal justice agenda. But I have to wonder if it really is when they refuse to move to consider it. And it's not like they're suggesting there's something more important that should be considered. They're suggesting instead we should be arguing about the circumscription of religious expression and freedom in this country. And so to me, that's very clearly a misplaced priority on the part of the government to not want to talk about bail and sentencing reform, not want to talk about how we fix a broken system, which has been broken, frankly, by the actions of the Liberal government.
Sorry, Mr. Mantle, we have a point of order. Mr. Housefather.
Relevance to the amendment that is on the table, Mr. Chair?
You don't
I've given 11 minutes of
We're
leeway
not going to have the back and forth across the table, please, gentlemen. You made your point of order. Mr. Mantle, if you can explain how this is relevant to the sub-amendment.
Absolutely, Mr. Chair. I think I laid out quite clearly how I think this is relevant to this discussion. There's a laudable goal in C9, which was undermined by the Liberals' decision to remove religious defense, which then Mr. Lawton sought to amend to add in clarification on that, and then Mr. Brock's amendment sought to further clarify and expand the scope of that, and that's the goal. The faulty premise, of course, of C9, and then their misplaced priorities and not wanting to deal with Mr. Lawton's amendment and Mr. Brock's sub-amendment. So I would suggest that's directly relevant. If you can certainly, I mean, you can certainly, we can get to a vote after members have had their ability to express their opinions on that. You know, I mean, they can laugh all they want. And if their laugh is suggesting that this is not, that religious freedoms are not an important
Nobody's
discussion.
laughing at that, Mr. Mantle. Look, I mean, look, there's procedural shenanigans going on around the table. We all know that. And anybody watching knows that. Telling people that they're laughing over some substantive issue is not accurate. Let's carry on, please.
Like you just, like you can't make substantive opinion-oriented comments.
Carry on, Mr. Mantle.
I am.
Do I?
And I can't.
I still have the floor to continue. You know, I respect you as chair, and I'm still new in this, learning, you know, the role of the chair, so I accept that. But I would suggest that it's not the chair's role to police the content of speech in the committee. You obviously, relevance is important. I've explained how I think it's relevant. You know, if you disagree, you're free to do that as the chair and use what power you have. But I suggest it's relevant, and I'm going to continue on my points. Going back to my third point of my remarks today, Mr. Chair, which is misplaced priorities. I am suggesting that the Liberal government has misplaced priorities by not wanting to talk about bail and sentencing reform, which they have said is an important issue. Frankly, only because we have been raising it and Canadians have been raising it in response to these outrageous acts of violent offenders being let out on bail and committing horrendous violence again. And instead of wanting to talk about that, we are stuck on the Liberals' Bill C9 attempt to curtail and suppress religious expression, sincerely held religious beliefs, including those from religious texts. And I think that's a serious misplacing of priorities. So, Mr. Chair, in summary, I think that Bill C9 had a laudable goal. Unfortunately, it was brought forward on a faulty premise. And in fact, it will not achieve the goal that the government says they hope to achieve. And instead, that they are moving to misplace their priorities by talking about this issue rather than bail and sentencing reform. And so, Mr. Chair, given that misplaced priority, I would like to move the following motion. Given that the Minister of Justice is in Ottawa today, the committee invited him to appear immediately in relation to Bill C-14 with respect to bail and sentencing, followed immediately by a clause-by-clause consideration of Bill C-14, followed by a clause-by-clause consideration of Bill C-9. And if they are serious about what they say, the Liberal members will support that and bring the minister here today.
All right. Yeah, the motion's out of order, Mr. Mantle. Mr. Brock, yeah.
Asking for unanimous consent for the following. Given that the Minister of Justice is in Ottawa today, the committee invite him to appear immediately in relation to Bill C-14
do this on a point of
with
order,
respect
Mr.
to
Brock.
bail and sentencing, followed immediately by clause consideration
Mr.
of
Brock, we can talk
C-14,
over each other, or you
followed
can
by
respect the
clause
chair
on Bill
and respect
C-9.
the interpreters.
Point of order,
We can
Mr.
do
Chair.
this all day long.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
I'm addressing Mr. Brock's point of order. Mr. Mantle, just be patient. That's inappropriate at this time, Mr.
Okay, and I'll
Brock.
be raising it again when I'm recognized.
You're right.
When is that, clerk?
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
I'm going to suspend for a few
My God, what an absolute shite show.
minutes. Not
This
because
is
of what's going.
directly on my.
I've had a request that we suspend
I want
for
to know.
personal reasons, Mr. Mantle.
Okay, so yes, the committee suspended briefly, and I believe this is the Conservative MP's live stream and YouTube channel. So yeah, here he comes back.
Hi, folks. MP Gargachenis here, just cutting in again right outside the Justice Committee as we continue this live stream. So the Justice Committee is ongoing, but the committee has suspended. I think someone needed to use the washroom or something. So the committee will resume shortly. And what's happening at the committee is Liberals are trying to push forward their attack on freedom of religion and freedom of speech. This is Liberal Bill C9. And a lot of the discussion today has focused on the Conservative proposal that the committee focus instead on the issue of real crime, in particular on the issue of the way that the Liberals broke the bail system and it needs to be changed. So when Liberals first took office, they made changes to the bail, caused a significant increase in violent crime. There's been broad recognition across different provincial governments, municipal leaders, et cetera, about the problems with the Liberal bail regime. And we put a lot of pressure on the government over this issue of bail reform. And they have put forward some legislation which we are keen to see studied, Bill C14. And that bill has been referred to the Justice Committee as well. So when you have multiple issues referred to the Justice Committee has to set its priorities. Which bill is it going to study first? And we've got C9, the Liberal attack on religious freedom and free speech, before the committee. We've also got Bill C14 dealing with bail reform. And the Conservative proposal is that we deal with real crime, with the issue of bail changes. And meanwhile, the Liberals are refusing to fix the bail system. Instead, they want to focus on their attack on communities of faith through these changes that they're making with Bill C9. So one of the points that we are making, in addition to highlighting the underlying problems with Bill C9 and the attack on religious freedom and freedom of speech that is in the bill, we are making the point that, look, why doesn't this committee focus instead on the issue of bail, an issue that I think most Canadians agree that action is required on. The government has finally put forward a bill on it, and that bill could be studied at the committee. But instead, Liberals are persisting in saying, no, we're not going to talk about the bail bill. Instead, we're going to talk about this attack on religious freedom. And, it seems just common sense that, A, we tackle the real issues of crime rather than going after law-abiding citizens. B, that the Justice Committee could focus on an area where there could actually be shared endeavor and progress, rather than on this attack on religious freedom, which is clearly a red line for Conservatives. So a lot of the discussion so far this morning has focused on the issue of whether the committee is taking on the issue of bail or proceeding with Bill C9. You're also, of course, hearing substantive arguments about the concerns we have with Bill C9, about how it would it would allow prosecution in instances where individuals have simply made good faith appeals to religious texts. So you're hearing those substantive arguments about Bill C9 as well as the discussions about bail. So in a moment, we'll go back to the stream from the committee. It's mostly Conservative members speaking. Actually, the Liberals have said almost nothing in defense of their position on C9, which is quite interesting. You'll hear Liberals complaining about procedural issues from time to time, but virtually no discussion of the substantive issues from Liberal MPs. I think that's quite interesting. It's really only Conservative MPs that are ready to speak to this issue, speak to the fundamental religious freedom issues that are raised by this change in Bill C9. So, by the way, just to mention before we go back to the stream, one other thing that we're calling for is asking the Justice Minister to appear
on the bail legislation. We know he's in Ottawa. We're inviting him to appear before the committee today to talk about these issues, and thus far he's been unwilling to. So reminder to folks at home about what you can do to help us here. First of all, if you are in the...
Okay, so we're going to do a brief switch over to the Kristi Noem hearing. She's testifying on the threats to the homeland, and apparently it just explodes into chaos, so we're going to see what happens here.
Asylum application put into place under the rules established by the Biden administration.
Reclaiming my time. I don't want to file perjury charges against you, but I'm of the opinion that the Trump administration, DHS, your DHS, approved the asylum application.
The asylum application moved forward under all of the information and vetting processes that were put in place under the Biden administration, which is when vetting happened. And that's what President Trump has changed. Under President Trump's administration.
Claim my time again.
When
it's obvious you don't want to answer the question. Mr. Kent, do you want to shout?
The individual was vetted to serve as a soldier in Afghanistan, and that vetting standard, the Biden administration, as a ruse to bring him here. Had we followed the standard operating procedures for special immigrant visas, that individual and none of the allies welcome people would have come to America. That's on Joe Biden.
Gentleman's time has expired.
That was the answer.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. That was a murder that took place in D.C. It was not an unfortunate incident. And those comments are effing disrespectful.
Who is it?
I expect better from the
It's not a valid point of order. I will now recognize the gentleman from Texas, the former chairman, Mr. McCall, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Secretary, great to see you. This hearing reminds me of the novel A Tale of Two Cities. They see it, the Dems see it as the worst of times, but I see it really as the best of times. And what do I mean by that? Under the Biden administration, 15 to 20 million illegal aliens, unvetted, as you indicated, came into this country. What I think most disturbing is Director Kent's testimony. 18,000 known or suspected terrorists got into this country under the... That's why we impeached Mayorkas. I was one of the managers. He told his Border Patrol, you don't have to pay attention to federal law when it says shall detain aggravated felons. He disregarded federal law and says, you know what, may detain. It's discretionary. And guess what? We have thousands of aggravated felons now, or if not millions, in this country today. That was the worst of times. Let me go to the best of times. Most secure border I've seen in my 22 years in Congress. And I've dealt with this for a long time. Coming from Texas, being chairman of this committee, the daily crossings are 95% down from the prior administration. That's the best of times. Zero catch and release. My very first bill in Congress 22 years ago was to end catch and release. 22 years later, we finally have achieved that goal. That, Madam Secretary, is the best of times. An all-time record low. America is safer today. I feel so. And when I look at the Venezuelan vessels attacked, the president had every right under the Constitution, Article 2, international waters, cartels designated as FTOs, coming into our country to spread poison to kill Americans. If that's not self-defense, I don't know what it is. And then finally, Madam Secretary, thank you for taking out the shadow Iranian oil tankers headed from Venezuela to Cuba, getting around our sanctions that Congress passed. I'm finally seeing an administration flexing its muscle in this hemisphere, which has been neglected for so many years. So air, land, and sea is your charge. It's the military's charge as well. I see the land secure. I see the maritime borders getting more secure, and I applaud you for that. On the air secure piece, I chair the Special Events Task Force. That's FIFA, the Olympics, the 250th anniversary. Drones are the biggest threat as I see it. I see it in Ukraine in its conflict with Russia, and I see it across our border, and I see it at these events. If you could update me, and with the new NDA authorization to allow federal, state, and locals to work together to identify hostile adversary drones and take them down. Can you tell me how that will impact your ability, Madam Secretary, to better secure these special events?
Yes, thank you, Congressman McCall, and thank you for your leadership. I understand you're retiring, and I'm sad about that. You've been a statesman. Thank you for serving with such dignity.
Thank you.
The counter drone and drone technology that is out there today, frankly, our authorities haven't kept up with. And so thank you for that legislation. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to truly defend the homeland. Here at the Department of Homeland Security, we are going to be investing upwards to $1.5 billion into drone technology and counter-drone technology and mitigation measures that we can deploy not just across different NSC events or large-scale events that we're responsible for the security on, but also that we can use to partner with cities and states for celebrations and different things. Responsibility at the Department of Homeland Security for FIFA and the 11 cities that will be hosting the matches here in the United States, also the Olympics, the America 250 celebrations, also other national security events that happen, such as Mardi Gras and other events that are going on throughout the country. So this program that we will have will not only work within the events that the department is responsible for, but we will be able to sign agreements with states and cities to provide measures that they don't currently have. And we're working with the FAA as well to get what we need to be able to operate. And we don't want just to detect, we don't want to just monitor, we need to mitigate. We need to take these drones down. We need
If
to
I could add, my time's going to expire. There is so much technology out there today, counter drone technology, that I've been working to get into Ukraine to protect them from Russian drones that we can deploy at these events. I'd love.
All right, moving on because Ukraine, whatever. We got the other half of this committee from Parliament. Just want to thank everybody joining on YouTube, Rumble, and Kick today. We have the White House press briefing, hopefully starting soon. Everybody looks like they're getting ready to ask questions, so.
Address first. I had asked you some questions earlier today. I found out that there was an email that was shared with our leadership that would seem to indicate resources are now available on today's date until midnight. I would like clarification of that, sir, if you have that information to confirm or deny. Secondly, several colleagues have approached me with issues regarding travel, specifically in relation to whether we are sitting tomorrow. Decisions need to be made, flights need to be booked. So I don't know if you've got an update for us, Chair, with respect to sitting tomorrow. Again, the Conservatives are prepared to do that if resources are available to us. So if you could address that at some point sooner than later, Chair, that would be appreciated. And now that I officially have the floor, perhaps maybe I'll give you the opportunity of addressing that before I move on.
I was going to say, I thought that was official. I haven't seen the email you're referring to. As I explained to you earlier today, I've put in a request for additional resources in the future. I have no further information than I did for you earlier today.
Which future? The distant future, the near-term future?
And as far as travel plans go, I mean, the nature of our job, I'd probably change my flights 3 times every week. So I will give you the information as soon as we have it, Mr. Brock.
My only concern is, given that the House is expected to rise shortly after QP, there's going to be a number of members utilizing the Ottawa International Airport. Many of us may not be able to book a flight. So the sooner that we know, the better that we can make appropriate arrangements.
Again, it seems you have better information than I do. The House is rising.
Maybe I do.
That's the best thing I've heard you say all day. So.
Maybe I do. No. Well, I've got a lot left in the tank. Believe me, I've got hours and hours left in the tank. So I appreciate that. So given that I officially have the floor, I am now moving a motion that, given that the Minister of Justice is in Ottawa today, the committee invite him to appear immediately in relation to Bill C-14 with respect to bail and sentencing, followed immediately by clause consideration of C-14, followed by clause on Bill C-9. Recorded vote, please.
The motion is not receivable, Mr. Brock, because we're still in the middle of the discussion on the sub-amendment. So if you have submissions on the sub-amendment, you have the floor.
On what authority are you relying upon, Chair?
Yeah, we're dealing with a sub-amendment, which is a motion in itself. So it's one motion at a time. It's not receivable at this time.
All right.
Let's seek unanimous consent to this.
Can I seek unanimous consent at this point for all the reasons I have read out?
You can try.
Okay, I guess.
We do not
the
have unanimous
Secretary, sorry, the parliamentary
Mr. Brock,
secretary.
these are
for
not
Justice
recorded
has said
votes. You
no.
do not, it's not appropriate to identify people who are speaking when the mic is not on.
Well,
You do
this
not
is
have unanimous
televised.
consent, which I've made very
Thank
clear.
you.
So if you have
Yeah,
submissions on the sub-amendment, the
I
floor is
have,
yours.
I have some more. Just received notice of a woman from Quebec in Longueuil who was out on bail, arrested again after a black child, aged 10, was scalded with boiling water. Given the significance of this case, given the significance of the Bail and Sentencing Reform Act that is Bill C-14, I'd like to table this article with the committee at this time.
Do we have unanimous consent to table the article?
Mr. Chair, what is the source of this article?
From the Gazette.
Dated when?
Dated,
Is it translated, Mr. Brock, just out of curiosity?
it is not translated, it is only in English.
Okay, so we'd need unanimous consent then to waive the,
Mr. Chair, how is that relevant to the sub-amendment?
well, it's not translated anyway, so I think we're not
You can't-
going to get
okay.
anywhere, yeah.
Thank you.
So we have no unanimous
We do
consent?
not have unanimous consent because the article, if for no other reason, because the article is only in one official language.
Thank you. Prepared to cede my time at this time.
Thank you, which takes us to Mr. Gill. Good question. Wait, what's Gill? No, I think it was Mr. Gill who's not here.
Okay, so it looks like Caroline is out here now doing her thing, so.
Was the most expensive price during a presidential term in U.S. history under Biden's disastrous leadership, even with them recklessly draining our strategic reserves to try and artificially decrease prices. But thanks to President Trump, those days are long behind us. In the months ahead, Americans can expect prices to fall even further. We know that when gas gets cheaper, everything else gets cheaper too, and that's what this president is focusing on. Americans can also expect another boost to their bank accounts in the months ahead, as 2026 tax refund season is upon us after the holidays, and it's projected to be the largest ever thanks to President Trump's passage of the One Big Beautiful Bill. According to recent analysis from Piper Sandler, when Americans file their taxes early next year, their refunds could be about 1/3 larger than usual, or roughly an extra $1,000 per filer. That is money straight into the pockets of the American people. It's only because of President Trump and Republicans' leadership that Americans will now pay no tax on tips, overtime, and Social Security. President Trump and Republicans believe hardworking Americans deserve to keep more of their hard-earned money, but Democrats, on the other hand, every single one of them, voted against these massive tax cuts. So remember that the next time Democrats try to talk about affordability. Democrats don't have a single clue about how to make America more affordable. They just spent the last 4 years creating the very affordability crisis that President Trump is fixing right now. And if given the chance of power ever again, the Democrats will implement those same policies and jack inflation right back up to where it was. Finally, at the border, President Trump has restored America's sovereignty and made our country safe again. This is the single greatest and fastest national security victory in modern American history, and it's not even close. The latest preliminary numbers released from the month of November show we have the most secure border in our nation's history. This is a remarkable achievement. November encounters came in even lower than the previous historic low in October, if you can believe it. There were only 30,367 total encounters nationwide. That's lower than the previous record set in October. And for the 7th consecutive month, U.S. Border Patrol released 0 illegal aliens into the United States. Let me repeat, 7 months of 0 illegal aliens being released into our country. This is a historic achievement, and it's one that every law-abiding American citizen should be grateful for. At this point, in 10 months under President Trump's unmatched leadership, we've seen less apprehensions overall than we saw in just 1 month under Joe Biden. Again, let me repeat, in 10 months under President Trump, we've seen less apprehensions at the southern border than we saw in 1 month under the previous president. Again, remarkable results. All in all, the economy is back on track and ready to boom over the next 3 years. Biden's inflation crisis is over, prices are coming down, wages are rising, the border is fully secure, and America's best days are to come. President Trump has kept his word and delivered for the American people over the past year, and he will not stop fighting, as you heard from him directly this week, until our country and every state in this country is better than ever before. So with that, I will take your questions today. I know there's a lot of news. We'll start with our new media seat. Mr. Bowling, it's great to see you here. He's of Real America's Voice. He's also the host of Edge, his interview and commentary podcast. Please, Eric, why don't you kick us off?
Caroline, thank you very much for this and inviting me to the new media seat. As you point out, affordability crisis, it strikes me energy prices have been coming down aggressively since President Trump's second term, approaching $55 a barrel for oil, gasoline, as you point out, under $3 a barrel nationally, first time in 5 years. By the way, that $55 a barrel oil is about half of the peak under the last 4 years of the last administration, half price. Wholesale prices come down, yet affordability crisis, a lot of the folks in this room, a lot of legacy media, some of the people in the front row, seem to want to call this an affordability crisis right now, forgetting the fact that over the last 4 years prior, we hit 9% inflation, wages, as you point out, were stagnant at best, sometimes had dipped. That's a real affordability crisis there, but they weren't really calling it that then. You point out how President Trump is changing the affordability in America, but how will he ensure that the legacy media doesn't flip the script and change it so that they're using affordability as their word, their idea, versus what the American people who know much better?
Yeah, well, it's a great question, Eric, and it's a point of frustration for the president and for myself. I will say that's part of the reason I just kicked off this briefing today, setting the record straight with facts about the economic mess that the president inherited from his predecessor, Joe Biden. And he's focused on digging our country and our economy out of that hole every day. Things are getting better, and they will continue to. And President Trump understands better than any politician in this city the pain that the American consumer has been feeling for years now because of the last administration's policies. You heard him in the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania this past week campaigning. And I was elected to fix this problem, and I am fixing it. Don't forget who created it, and that's the Democrats. And I think when you hear the president talk about affordability, he's saying the Democrats are the greatest con artists in history because they are now trying to claim ownership of an issue that they created. And every data point and every economic metric does in fact show that the economy is improving. And so I do wish more people would report on those facts. I do wish that more people would remind the American public how we got here and why. It does not mean this president is discarding the feelings of the American people. He gets it better than anyone, which is why his entire administration has been focused on the issue of the economy and energy prices since day one.
If I may
Sure.
follow up, it's reported that around 10,000 commercial driver's license operators have been pulled by your transportation secretary department. Will the president apply that same metric? For the reason was the operators weren't speaking or reading English to a level that was safely, people thought they would safely be able to operate trucks on our roadways. It's California, around 40% of Uber drivers, Uber and Lyft drivers, don't speak English proficiently, and the number's 45% in Minnesota. Will this same rule or metric apply to the gig economy like Uber and Lyft?
So I don't have any announcements on further regulations. If you
All right, my bad. I went to kind of go eat on and off eating. I usually eat a little bit before I go live, but I went live earlier, like I said, so a little bit of an extra long stream today. And then next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, regular live stream schedule. Just shorter streams, no question period. Final day of Parliament. You know what? It doesn't shock me that a majority of the Uber and Lyft drivers are non-English speaking. Like, doesn't shock me at all.
you will, from the Department of Transportation with respect to this issue. However, I will just reiterate the Trump administration's position is that truck drivers, particularly those driving big rigs on our nation's road and highways, who have a great responsibility to keep the American public and their fellow citizens safe, should be speaking English and should have an ability to read English proficiently. I think that's a very common sense policy to have. And we've unfortunately seen, and the Department of Transportation has uncovered and is actively working to fix these state-sponsored commercial trucking driver licenses, which were going to people who are not qualified to be driving these massive
Same thing
trucks
happening here
on American roads, and they're endangering the lives of our fellow citizens. We've unfortunately seen many vehicle accidents across the country where people have lost their lives because of drivers that were just simply unqualified to be driving these trucks. So I know this is something DOT and Secretary Duffy take very seriously. Peter.
Thank you, Caroline. Based on the way that things stand right now, is Operation Southern Spear about drugs or is it about oil?
What I will tell you, Peter, is that the Trump administration is focused on doing many things in the Western Hemisphere, has taken a new approach that has not been taken by any administration for quite some time to actually focus on what's going on in our own backyard. And there are two things that are very important to this administration. Number one, stopping the flow of illegal drugs into the United States of America, which we know has killed hundreds of thousands of Americans. The president promised on the campaign trail that he would demolish the foreign terrorist organizations and drug cartels around the world, especially right here in our own hemisphere, and you have seen that he is delivering on that promise. With respect to the oil and what happened yesterday, the Department of Justice requested and was approved for a warrant to seize a vessel because it's a sanctioned shadow vessel known for carrying black market sanctioned oil to the IRGC, which you know is a sanctioned entity. So the president is committed to stopping the illegal flow of drugs into our country. He's also fully committed to effectuating this administration's sanction policy, and that's what you saw and the world saw take place yesterday.
And because you said...
You know what? Just say it. They want to stop the drugs, and you're damn right they're going to take the oil as well. Like, why the hell not? To switch gears very briefly, there's a lot of drama. A lot of people are upset with this headline. And once again, it's the mainstream media doing what the mainstream media does best. Manipulation. They put up this headline, but they don't tell you the entire thing. They just want to make Orange Man look bad. Canadian permanent residents could soon have to show 5 years of social media activity to enter the US. You literally just need to look into what it fully is, and this is something you can see for yourself. The ESTA program. However, Canadian citizens would not be affected by the proposed changes. Canadian citizens traveling on a Canadian passport do not need this ESTA to enter the US. So what it sounds like is it's people who have come into the country, maybe on wherever. They've come from whichever country into Canada, and then from Canada entering the US. That's what it sounds like it's going to be. And honestly, at the same time, the US is allowed to implement whichever border rules they want. It's their country. Everybody's up in arms about it. But what about every other country on the face of this planet that probably has stricter and harsher border laws than the United States would ever implement? Are the United States borders strict? Yes, especially after the big event known as 9/11. Of course, they are going to tighten up their border security, and that was one of Trump's main things that got him elected, securing the borders even further. So they're going to do whatever they please. But when you look at other countries, they don't just have this open border idea. Right? When you look at literally any other country, Japan, countries in the Middle East, countries in Asia, right? I don't know why I singled out Japan there, but the point being, other countries don't just have, oh yeah, come on in as you please. It's not how it works. So I don't know why everybody's freaking out about this. It's like, it is their own border. Let them do as they please. And honestly, we should tighten up our borders as well here in Canada. It's absolutely ridiculous.
The president is trying to do a lot of things at once. He talks a lot about how he thinks the way to bring down prices for everything would be to bring down the cost of energy. Would he use this seized Venezuelan oil to try to help Americans with affordability here in the United States?
Well, what I can tell you right now, the vessel has been seized, as you know. And the Department of Justice did that in conjunction with the Coast Guard and the Department of War. The vessel is currently undergoing a forfeiture process right now. The United States currently has a full investigative team on the ground on the vessel, and individuals on board the vessel are being interviewed and any relevant evidence is being seized. With respect to the oil, that's a different issue. As you know, Peter, the vessel will go to a U.S. port, and the United States does intend to seize the oil. However, there is a legal process for the seizure of that oil, and that...
My last one on this. If President Trump launches a bigger military campaign in the Caribbean, is he jeopardizing a possible Nobel Peace Prize?
Look, the president has proven over the past year that he is more than worthy of the Nobel Peace Prize. I think he's been nominated for it nearly 100 times this past year, which is definitely a record. He's solved, I think, 9 conflicts around the world. We are up to now. He's actively working on the Russia-Ukraine war, which is the big one as we speak, and has been over the past year. With respect to any additional action in Venezuela, I'm definitely not going to get ahead of the president or the United States military. Mary.
It now seems all but certain that the Obamacare subsidies will expire at the end of the year. It means more than 20 million Americans are now bracing for their health care costs to soar. Is the president prepared to let this happen, or is he going to step in?
The president is prepared to take action on health care, and he wants Republicans on the Hill to do the same. As you have seen, Senate Republicans put forth their own legislation earlier this week. As for the subsidies that are set to expire, I would like to remind you and everybody at home why this is on the brink of happening. Democrats wrote Obamacare. They passed it without a single Republican vote, and then they ballooned it with these expensive COVID subsidies that completely distorted the health insurance market. And then they doubled down, extending those subsidies and setting their own expiration date right now in 2025, which the administration is obviously well aware of, and we are working. The president is working with his healthcare policy team here at the White House, as well as Republicans on Capitol Hill, to find a solution.
You said he's working to find a solution. He wants to see a solution to lower healthcare costs.
He does.
But these subsidies are expiring at the end of the year. So what is the plan, and what is he going to do to put this in place in the next 2-3 weeks?
You'll hear more from the president and from the White House on that very soon. As for wanting a solution to lower healthcare costs, I'm glad you said it, because the president is doing just that. He has made unprecedented progress towards lowering healthcare costs in this country and drug prices. He's secured numerous most favored nation drug price deals, with many more to come. As you know, the One Big Beautiful Bill, the working family tax cut, significantly expanded access to health savings accounts for those on Obamacare. Again, a Democrat written program and approved program, which has led to higher healthcare costs in this country. So it goes back to the issue of affordability. Democrats are now pretending they want a solution to this issue, but they created the problem. The president and Republicans are currently coming up with creative solutions and ideas to lower healthcare costs for the American people, and you'll continue to hear more from them on that.
Before these subsidies expire?
I just said you're going to continue to hear more from the president and Republicans on this issue, I'm sure. Sure, Bloomberg, go ahead.
Thanks, Caroline. The president said he was going to be holding a call with the leaders of Thailand and Cambodia. Have those calls taken place? Is there a readout you can share?
The president has not yet engaged in those calls, and when he does, I'm sure you'll hear from him directly, as you always do, after foreign leader calls or from somebody here at the White House. I do know, with respect to the conflict in the peace deal in Thailand and Cambodia and some of the conflicts you've seen arise, reports of that in the press over the past couple of days. The president addressed it in Pennsylvania. The administration is obviously tracking this at the highest levels and is very much engaged. I spoke with Secretary Rubio about it this morning.
And will senior U.S. officials be meeting Saturday with European and Ukrainian officials to discuss the peace plan?
Look, the United States and the Trump administration continues to be very much engaged in trying to bring the Russia-Ukraine war to an end. The President had a call with Europeans yesterday. His special envoy Witkoff and his team continue to talk with both sides literally as we speak. If there is a real chance of signing a peace agreement, if we feel like those meetings are worthy of someone on the United States' time this weekend, then we will send a representative. It's still up in the air whether we believe real peace can be accomplished and we can truly move the ball forward. The president is extremely frustrated with both sides of this war, and he's sick of meetings just for the sake of meeting. He doesn't want any more talk. He wants action. He wants this war to come to an end. And the administration has spent more than 30 hours, just in the past couple of weeks, meeting with the Russians and the Ukrainians and the Europeans and speaking with them as well. So we'll see about the meetings this weekend, and stay tuned.
President read President Zelensky's latest proposal that was sent over yesterday.
He's aware of it, yes. Ed.
Thanks, Caroline. The Fed chairman, the president says that he's interviewing candidates. So I just want to be clear. So the pick has not been locked in. And could we get an announcement before Christmas?
I know every business outlet in the world is just chomping at the bit for a scoop or something on this Fed chair announcement. I'm not going to get ahead of the president. Potential meetings this week with potential candidates. Look, as always, this is a decision the president himself is going to make. And I know there's a lot of reporting out there from anonymous sources who claim to know something. I would wait and see what the president himself does and announces, and I certainly won't be the one to get ahead of him on that.
Fair enough, Caroline. Okay. Briefly switching gears again. This is the Government of Canada website. So this ESTA system that everybody's freaking out about, that they're going to go through 5 years of social media history, yada yada, whatever the hell you want to go on about. Canada has a similar system called the ETA system. They just removed the S. Now, it doesn't look like they're going to go through 5 years of your internet history, or whatever the case is. But the very thing people are freaking out about, Canada has already implemented. And I wrote this down briefly while we were listening to Caroline here. Canada requires an ETA, electronic travel authorization, for visa-exempt foreign nationals flying into Canada. Visa-exempt foreign nationals. Canadian citizens with Canadian passports do not. Why am I getting friend requests? Get out of here. Do not need an ETA or ESTA. Do I need to say the do not part one more time? Because everybody just loves to freak out whenever Trump is involved with anything. Then nobody decides to look further into things. They just take the blanket statements at face value.
Michael, go ahead.
On the next Fed chair, does the president have an expectation that his pick will lower interest rates next year to his liking?
I think the president has been quite clear about what he believes the Fed should be doing, which is lowering interest rates. I know there was a quarter-point reduction this past week, and the president was pleased to see that, but he thinks more should be done. Philip.
Thank you, Caroline. On these advanced NVIDIA H200 chips, why is the president willing to allow China to have access to one of America's chief technological advantages?
Look, I will tell you just a couple of things. The president put out his own statement on this, which I do think highlights his exact thinking. What you see from the president on Truth Social is most of the time what you hear from the president behind closed doors privately. He told President Xi that NVIDIA will only be shipping H200 products to approved customers in China under conditions that will allow for continued strong national security. The administration continues to maintain a strict export control regime, and we are ensuring that the Blackwell chip and other advanced technologies stay right here in America, and these H200 chips will only be sent to China after undergoing a security inspection here in the United States. Elizabeth.
City Mayor-elect Mamdani put out a video recently telling immigrants in New York City they have the right to stand up to ICE. Are you concerned?
Mamdani put out a video saying, "Give me your money because I'm broke. I promised everything for free and I can't deliver." I don't know why I did a Trump voice for that, but now he's telling people to fight ICE. That's not a good idea. Ma'am Donnie, what are you doing? What are you doing there, little Billy?
This will inspire New York City residents to resist ICE operations, and what will the Trump administration do if this happens?
The Trump administration is definitely concerned about the rise in violence, in attacks, in physical threats that we have seen against our brave men and women who wear the ICE uniform. Again, these are agents who are just simply doing their jobs. They are enforcing our nation's immigration laws, and we've seen more than a 1,000% increase in violent attacks on them and their families. They've been doxxed, they've been harassed, many of them have been physically assaulted and attacked. So we condemn that wholeheartedly. I know the administration has done a lot to protect our ICE agents, and the president stands firmly behind them in conducting these enforcement operations. And there's a lot of talk from Democrat politicians in New York, but the Trump administration will continue to do our jobs in every state, and that's to remove illegal aliens and public safety threats from American communities. Sure.
I mean, yeah, I guess when they met, Ma'am Donnie did bow down to Trump, and Trump made him look like a total loser. But Donnie's going to do what he's always done. Say one thing and do another. Claim one thing when he's alone out on a podium speaking to a crowd or something. But then when he actually gets face to face with the individual, that bark, that bite, it's gone. The bite's gone. It's all bark. So, yeah. Yeah, he had nothing. Trump literally said to him, "It's okay, you can call me a fascist." Like he made him look like a fool. Because if Trump was actually a fascist, Ma'am Donnie wouldn't even be running. He probably would be in prison. If Trump was a true dictator, a true fascist like all these people claim, anybody who opposed him wouldn't be there right now actively voting and speaking against him. Just saying. Like, look at what happened in communist China when one of the, I don't even know what the hell you want to call it, one of the members of their council didn't vote alongside Xi Jinping. They stood his ass up and walked him out, and he was never seen again. He was never seen again. That is a true dictatorship. And it's on video as well. As a matter of fact, I will find that video.
Thank you.
I'll go to the gentleman who's very eager, and then to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Obviously, Jasmine Crockett, who the president has openly criticized, just entered Texas' Senate race. I asked Mike Johnson, who said that Texas largely supports the president. Crockett, on the other hand, says that Trump is an example of extremism. She says that her support is a referendum on Trump. I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. And has Trump made any statements since she's announced her candidacy?
Not to my knowledge, as you know, from the White House podium. As a government employee, I'm not privy to comment on future elections, but I do think the president has made his thoughts on Ms. Crockett quite clear, and I do believe he thinks she is wholly unqualified for the office that she is seeking. Joey.
Just go watch Crockett's latest advertisement promoting her. She's a low IQ person. She's very stupid. Very dumb indeed. Take a look at this. This is what a real dictatorship looks like, by the way.
No.
好，请问一下音分在哪？什么？音分，收音那个。哦，这个我不负责。
Now, I remember there was like a whole thing going around saying like, oh, he was escorted out because he had a medical problem or something. Bullshit. Bullshit. Absolute bullshit. Look at Xi Jinping's face. he tries to speak with him, and he just brushes him off. He's like, yep, get a move on, little Billy. See you later. So, look, if you want to see how an actual dictatorship works, there you go. That's a sneak peek. That's a small minute and 20-second segment. You don't even get to see what happens. It's not like the House of Commons where they just openly have question period. I'm surprised they were even able to get this footage and publish it. Honestly.
Yeah, thanks, Caroline. A federal judge today ordered the immediate release of Kilmar Abrego Garcia from ICE detention. Does the White House have a response to that, and does the administration plan to appeal that decision?
Absolutely. The White House, the administration opposed this activism from a judge who is really acting as a judicial activist, which we've unfortunately seen in many cases across the country. Abrego Garcia is present in our country illegally. He is a proven human trafficker. He is a proven gang member. The administration has evidence of that. And as you saw from the Department of Homeland Security, they issued a statement saying they'll continue to fight this legal battle in court. Caitlin.
Two questions. I have one on Venezuela to follow up, but first on affordability, since we were talking about the economy at the beginning. If the economy is as strong as the president has said it is, then why is he telling parents 2 weeks before Christmas that they should only buy 2 or 3 dolls for their children?
Look, what the president is saying is that if we want products made right here in America, if we want them to be made from American small businesses, which is a large part of the reason the president has effectively implemented tariffs, then we're going to have better quality products right here in the United States. Maybe you'll pay $1 or $2 more, but you will get better quality and you'll be supporting your fellow Americans by buying American, and that's what the president was saying. Again, with respect to affordability, every economic metric, Caitlin, and I wish you would report more on it, does in fact show that the economy is getting better and brighter than where it was under the previous administration. I will repeat, inflation as measured by the overall CPI has slowed to an average 2.5% pace. Real wages are increasing, roughly $1,200 for the average worker. Gas prices are down in almost every single state across the country. Again, in 22 states, it's below $275. You look at the tax cuts, those are going to go into effect next year. So the best is yet to come. The president is digging our country out of the economic hole that the previous administration put us in, and that's what he's talking about.
It was a year ago, as you know, and grocery prices have been up. So we've covered the economy, but there's mixed signals in terms of what that looks like. But on
inflation is down from where it was. As measured by the overall CPI, it has slowed to an average 2.5% pace. This is down from what the president inherited. The president inherited 2.9% in January. Today it's at about 2.5%. So we're trending in the right direction with more to come. And I would remind you, when President Trump left office in his first term, inflation was 1.7%. And the previous administration jacked it up to a record high 9%. So again, in 10 months, the president has clawed us out of this hole. He's kept it low at 2.5%, and we believe that number is going to continue to decline, especially as energy and oil prices continue to decline as well.
It wasn't high under Biden. They're just saying it's not.
Well, nobody reported on it being high under Biden. My predecessor was standing at this podium, but now you want to ask me a lot of questions about it, which I'm happy to answer. But I will just add, there's a lot more scrutiny on this issue from this press corps than there was. Well, and the previous administration said that too. My predecessor stood up at this podium and she said inflation doesn't exist. She said the border was secure, and people like you just took her at her word, and those were two utter lies. Everything I'm telling you is the truth, backed by real factual data, and you just don't want to report on it because you want to push untrue narratives about the president. Go ahead. I'm not going to take your follow-up. Go ahead.
Does the White House is the White House
Let's go, Caroline.
redistricting vote in Indiana, and what happens if it fails?
We'll see how the vote plays out. That's a political matter and, frankly, a legal one, and I won't comment on it here. Brian.
Thank you, Caroline. I'm going to go back to the Fed. I have 2 topics I just want to address with you. The first one on the Fed. The president did say yesterday that he was meeting with Kevin Warsh.
This is your favorite story in the world, Brian.
It is. It is our favorite story. The president said yesterday he was meeting with Kevin Warsh to talk about the Fed chair, like interview for a Fed chair role. Can you just say how that interview went with him?
I won't comment on private meetings without the president's approval to do so.
Okay. And the second thing is on the Netflix Warner Brothers deal. The president did address this also yesterday. He said that he believes that the sale of CNN should be attached to that deal with Netflix or with Paramount, if anything happens down the road with them. Can you just explain what the president's planning to do going forward to continue to make that case similar to what he made yesterday.
Well, I think the president's comments yesterday about the sale of CNN and new leadership is evidenced by my exchange with the CNN reporter in this room. Their viewership has gone down, their ratings has declined, and I think the president rightfully believes that network would benefit from new ownership. With respect to this deal, he has great respect for both companies who are bidding against one another, and I won't weigh in any further than that. In the back, go ahead.
Thank you.
I wasn't calling on either of you, but I'll take both your questions and then to you. Go ahead.
I have two questions. One is South Korea, one on the Japan. First question, the recent U.S.-South Korea trade fact sheet made no mention of agricultural product. Does the United States want to completely open its rice and beef market to South Korea? And second question on Japan. China is using its military power to surround Okinawa, Japan. Is the United States concerned about the military conflict between China and Japan? And what action will the United States take?
Okay. To your first question on South Korean beef exports to South Korea, I will check with our trade team and we will get you an answer on that. To your second question in China, the president has a phenomenal relationship with the new Prime Minister of Japan, as you know. He was pleased to meet her when we went to Asia a couple of months ago, and they have spoken a few times since. They continue to be engaged with one another, and Japan is a great ally of the United States, as evidenced by their personal relationship and our continued trade relations with Japan. With respect to China, the president also has a good working relationship with President Xi, which he believes is a good thing for our country, and he believes that the United States should be in a position to have a good working relationship with China while maintaining our very strong alliance with Japan. Go ahead.
Yesterday, President Trump was speaking about drug production in Colombia. He said that the president of Colombia better wise up or he's gonna be next. What was he meaning exactly? And the other thing is that President Gustavo Petro of Colombia responded to that statement by issuing a formal invitation to President Trump to go to Colombia and to see firsthand how the authorities in Colombia are fighting against drugs. Do you think that President Trump would consider that?
Well, that's very interesting. I hadn't heard the news about that invitation. I will let the president speak directly to it on whether or not that's something he would entertain. But as for his comments yesterday towards President Petro, he has been saying some very alarming and frankly insulting things towards the United States of America, and the president doesn't like it. Yes, in the blue.
Caroline?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. The president's been spotted out and about a number of times with bandages on his hands. Could you please explain what that is about? Secondly, he noted on Truth Social the other day that he had aced 3 cognitive tests. Could you please clarify when those tests took place?
I can do that at a later date. I obviously don't have that in front of me. The president has spoken about that quite extensively throughout the years. As for the bandages on the hand, we've also given you an explanation for that in the past. The president is literally constantly shaking hands. The Oval Office is like Grand Central Terminal. He is meeting with more people than any of you even know about on a daily basis. He's also on a daily aspirin regimen, which is something his physical examinations has said in the past as well, which can contribute to that bruising that you see.
Thank you, Caroline. Back to that oil tanker, just want to know, was this a one-off, or is it safe to say the administration is taking a more active look at the oil industry in Venezuela, whether targeting other oil ships or perhaps Venezuelan oil production facilities in Venezuela?
Well, I won't broadcast any future actions from the administration, but I will just reiterate that the Trump administration is executing on the president's sanction policies and the sanction policies of the United States. And we're not going to stand by and watch sanctioned vessels sail the seas with black market oil, the proceeds of which will fuel narco-terrorism of rogue and illegitimate regimes around the world. Andrew?
Thank you, Caroline. 2 for you. First, when the president announced the farm relief program the other day, Secretary Rollins afterwards, right out there, told us that the program would be paid for by the Commodity Credit Corporation, an existing program. The president keeps saying that it's being paid for by tariff revenue. Why does he keep saying that if the secretary who's running the program says that's not the case? And also about his doll comments from the other night. The president's a billionaire. He's probably the wealthiest person to ever serve as president. Is it a good look for him to be telling parents, oh, you should only buy, $2 or $3 for your kids, when he's one of the wealthiest people in the country running the government?
Do you think the people in that room in Pennsylvania who the president was speaking to don't know the president's a billionaire? I think that's a very well-established fact. And actually, I think it's one of the many reasons they reelected him back to this office, because he's a businessman who understands the economy and knows how to fix it. And he's doing it right now just like he did in his first term. Sure, go ahead. To the gentleman behind you, Andrew, yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline. On Gaza, we heard the president say yesterday that the Board of Peace members are going to be announced early next year. What is the administration doing to move the parties in the region closer toward phase 2 of his peace plan for Gaza?
Sure. Well, first of all, I would be remiss if I didn't highlight what a success it is that 10 months into the president's administration, you're asking me about a peace plan in Gaza, because that's a legitimate reality on the ground right now in the region. And it's only because of this president's leadership that that was able to take place, that all the living hostages were returned. All but one body of the deceased hostages has been returned, and we're still, of course, working on the last one. As for this next phase of the peace process, there is a lot of quiet planning that's going on behind the scenes right now for phase 2 of the peace deal. And when the United States is ready to make those announcements public on the Board of Peace, the ISF, and the Palestinian technocratic government, we will be making those announcements at the appropriate time. But the reason that the negotiators and the teams on the ground have been rather quiet about this is because I spoke with them this morning. They are trying to be deliberate and thoughtful about this. Peace in Gaza, in the Palestinian Strip, is something, the Gaza Strip rather, is something that...
All right, that's for sure. The House of Commons. The House of Commons is currently... What do you call it here? That's suspended. I don't know why. I don't know what's going on. Got the music going. I didn't really want to hear about Gaza anymore, so I decided to turn that one off. We are minutes away from hopefully question period starting, unless they're going to delay it for some reason. I don't know. As we stare at the green screen, I'm going to look for other things to briefly watch here, because there's not much going on. Unless the House opens soon.
And Rob Benzie. Corey, I'll start with you. Make it make sense. I don't know what else to say. 45-minute meeting after the telegraphing ahead of it was, nothing's going to happen. It's going to be very brief. The three of them in a room with no staff. Nothing really out of that meeting, tangible, like that we're talking about today. What do you make of it all?
Well, oh, okay, here we go. I was going to say, I didn't really want to watch that, but there was not much going on.
The Governor General. Bill assented to on Wednesday, December 10th, 2025, an act for granting to His Majesty certain sums of money for the federal public administration for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2026, Bill C-17. J'ai l'honneur d'informer la Chambre qu'une communication.
I have the honor of informing the House that a communication has been received dated December 10th, 2025. Mr. Speaker, I have the honor to inform you that the Right Honorable Mary Simon, Governor General of Canada, has granted royal assent to the bill mentioned in the schedule to this letter on December 10th, 2025 at 5 p.m. Cordially, Secretary to the Governor General, Ken McKillop. And the schedule reads as follows. The bills having received royal assent on December 10th, 2025, an act granting certain sums to His Majesty for the administration of the federal government for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2026, Bill C-17.
Déclaration de député.
Statements by members.
The Honourable Member for Scarborough, Agincourt.
Mr. Speaker, during the Advent season, the themes of hope, peace, joy, and love guide meaningful reflection and provide a unique opportunity for spiritual renewal as we await Christ's birth. Earlier this week, I had the pleasure of hosting Christmas on the Hill. Our caucus welcomed guests from across the country to
All right, guys, we have statements by members at least for the next 12 to 15 minutes. I'm going to go grab some water. I would recommend you do the same because we have a full hour ahead for question period. And I don't know if there's going to be any votes today. I don't think so. It's the final day. They'll show up tomorrow to adjourn, and that's it. So anyway, I will be back.
Merry Christmas.
The Honourable Member for Bruce Grey, Owen Sound.
Mr. Speaker, I want to pay tribute to the victims of a tragic vehicle accident. On November 11th, 3 high school students, Tyson Varley, Damon Davis, and Haley Keffer from John Diefenbaker Senior School in Hanover, ages 15 to 17, lost their lives in a devastating crash on the rural road between Hanover and Durham. A 4th student, Landon Price Hillier, was critically injured and airlifted to the hospital. Damon, he loved to be loud and do things his way, but under that tough exterior laid a little boy with a huge heart. Haley, she loved her dog Bella and her mismatched socks. Tyson, he was well known for his love of cars and tinkering with them. He knew well how to make and fix things. This unimaginable loss has shaken the entire community of Hanover and surrounding areas. On behalf of all the constituents of Bruce Grey Owen Sound, I send my deepest condolences to the family, friends, and communities grieving this heartbreaking loss. May Damon, Haley, and Tyson rest in peace, and may their loved ones find strength and comfort in the days ahead.
For South Surrey, White Rock.
Mr. Speaker, December 10 is International Human Rights Day. Human rights are the backbone of freedom and democracy. It serves as a reminder that rights are not privileges, they are the foundation of dignity, equality, and inclusion. This year's theme, Human Rights, Our Everyday Essentials, speaks to the truth that these principles are not just ideas on paper, they shape how we live, work, and treat one another. Canada is seen as a global leader in advancing human rights. For me, human rights are deeply personal. Strong communities are built on fairness, respect, and the courage to stand up when something isn't right. These values guide me every day as a member of Parliament and as a Canadian. They mean ensuring every person can live without fear, discrimination, speak freely, and be treated with dignity. Today and every day, let us lead by protecting these essentials in our homes, communities, country, and around the world. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
L'honorable député de Montmorency.
The Honourable Member for Montmorency, Charlevoix. Today I'd like to pay tribute and thank an individual who has an organization that has left an incredible legacy for our region by supporting people like Guy Dallaire, and you've remained a true PQer and remained a member of the PQ until age 97. You've always defended that which defines us, our French language and our unique culture, and Quebec's essential place as a cornerstone in Canada. Your memory continues to inspire me. It's with great pride that I announce that your name was mentioned in Parliament here to underscore your contribution. André Pépé-Voyer, thank you for your contribution, your love of Quebec, and the Parliament of Ottawa wishes you a marvelous 101 birthday.
L'honorable député de La Salle.
The Honourable Member for La Salle et Marverdun. Mr. Speaker, as my first year in this place draws to a close, I'm proud of what we've accomplished together. Our first budget and our support for major projects like Nouveau Monde Graphite.
Holiday season as a member of Parliament, and let's just say it's not quite what I'm used to. Most year I'd be home trying and failing to get my Christmas light to work. Instead, I'll be at Maison d'Entraide Saint-Paul-et-Aimant sharing a warm meal with the community. D'habitude,
Normally, I'd be running around buying last-minute Christmas gifts, but this year I'll be handing out holiday baskets with the Saint Vincent de Paul. Instead of spending an evening wrapping gifts, I'll be proudly attending the 55th biannual review of the 796th La Salle Legion Air Cadet Squadron.
Mr. Speaker, if this is what holiday look like as an MP, I'm grateful every moment. Je souhaite à
I wish every member of this place and everyone in La Salle et Marc Verdun a very happy holiday season.
The Honourable Member for Mission Matsky Abbotsford.
Mr. Speaker, communities across the Fraser Valley and the interior are under evacuation orders as rising waters threaten homes, farms, and critical infrastructure. The border is shut, highways are closed, supply chains disrupted. The 2021 floods taught us hard lessons, yet today we find ourselves confronting the same vulnerabilities. Our roads, dikes, and drainage systems remain inadequate to withstand the realities of changing weather patterns. These failures put lives in our economy at risk. I call upon the government to take immediate and decisive action. We must invest in modern, resilient infrastructure, strengthen emergency preparedness, and ensure that rural and agricultural communities are not left behind. The cost of inaction will far exceed the cost of prevention. British Columbians deserve a plan that protects them, not just for today, but for the future. So I implore the Minister of Infrastructure to act on the request from Abbotsford and other vulnerable communities. We must prioritize investment in flood protection to safeguard our food supply and national supply chains. British Columbia matters. We need action.
The Honourable Member for South Shore St. Margaret's.
Mr. Speaker, as the season slowly gentles on South Shore St. Margaret's land, there's a warmth across our villages that only we understand. From Lunenburg's bright storefronts to Cape Sable Island's cold sprays, our communities shine brighter than the shortest of winter days. The lobster boats are twinkling as they head out on the dawn, and the families gentle gather as the holiday lights come on. In Liverpool, Tantallon, and Bridgewater, and the coves that line our shores, kindness moves from door to door and lifts our spirits evermore. This time of year reminds us of the ties that truly bind, the neighbors who step up for us, the generous hearts we find. From volunteers to small businesses, from first responders to friends, the magic of our riding is the way that never ends. So as we look to the new year, with hope in every heart, may peace and joy find you all wherever you may start. South Shore St. Margaret's, my gratitude rings clear. Happy holidays to everyone. A bright, resilient year.
The Honourable Member for Richmond Hill South.
This Liberal Prime Minister promised Canadians a win with the President by July 21st. 5 months later, no win, no elbows, no deal. From factories to steel mills, Conservatives will always stand with the workers who feed, power, and protect this country. And today, those Canadians are paying the price. Back in May, the Prime Minister said Canadians should judge him by the price of the grocery store. Well, food bank usage doubled, grocery bills doubled, and 86% of families are cutting back on meat just to get by. Food shouldn't be a luxury in Canada. Conservatives propose to scrap the 4 Liberal hidden taxes on food because no family should have to choose between paying for the power bill or a nutritious meal. What's worse is this Liberal Prime Minister promised 500,000 homes per year, and he's only delivering just 5,000. Housing starts have collapsed, and now Canadians are being told to lower their expectations and give up on the dream of home ownership altogether. Conservatives propose to scrap the GST on all new homes under $1.3 million and get shovels in the ground now. Conservatives will bring home hope, stronger take-home pay, safer streets, secure borders, and a self-reliant Canada where, once again, our Christmas cards can say Merry Christmas and Happy New Year and actually mean it. From my family to yours, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
The Honourable Member for Berthier-Masquinongé. Mr. Speaker, after a busy year, we're almost at the holidays. Quebecers are doing their Christmas shopping. Christmas trees, salespeople are offering their trees that we will put tinsel on, and children are counting their sleeps. This is not always an easy time for people, and that's why there are volunteers out there Christmas caroling and sharing food with the food banks. Let's think of our neighbors and share wherever possible so that this period is a truly happy one. The snow is covering Quebec with its white blanket. It's cold, but our hearts are warmed. On behalf of the Bloc, I wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and a happy 2026 that lives up to our aspirations.
Honourable member for Willowdale.
The Bloc leader never shows up. Like, it's the last day. You think everybody would be there. I highly doubt Mark Carney's going to be here. I highly doubt it. But, you know, it's the last day. You think they would all show up. But the Bloc leader specifically, he has missed a lot of question periods. Like, what has he been up to? He's almost never there. He might be on par to equal with Mark Carney on how many times they have missed question period. I'm just curious. Even like Don Davies, he barely shows up as well. I'm like, what are these people doing?
Critical mineral projects forward at unprecedented pace and accelerating home building throughout our beautiful country. These initiatives demonstrate the urgency.
Yeah, my point being, though, is like our tax dollars go towards these people to work and they don't even show up. It's just, I don't get it.
The foundations of our economy for tomorrow. Allow me to conclude by wishing.
Must be nice having a 6-figure salary to spew garbage all day and then fly around the world, right?
May we all return determined to build Canada strong. Thank you.
The honourable member for Kamloops, Thompson, Nicolai.
For a decade, Liberals have dismantled criminal laws, gutted jail sentences, and allowed gangs and extortionists to rule our streets. Since 2015, violent crime is up nearly 55%. Sex assaults have surged over 75%. Gun crime has skyrocketed 130%, and extortions have exploded 330%, Mr. Speaker. Conservatives have put forward many solutions, among them reverse Liberal bail and bring in jail, not bail, listing the Bishnoi gang as a terrorist entity. Take urgent action on extortion from Surrey to Brampton. Fire the embattled public safety minister whose gun buyback scheme will only punish law-abiding hunters and farmers. Use all legislative tools to ensure that child sex predators are receiving the worst punishments possible and properly punish intimate partner violence once and for all. Together, Conservatives will repeal reckless Liberal policies, put victims first, and restore safety to our streets.
The honourable member for St. Boniface, St. Vital.
Boniface Saint-Vital, the first Minister of Northern Affairs and the first Indigenous cabinet member from Manitoba, the Honourable Dan Vandal, is in the gallery today with his wife Brigitte. Here.
The youngest of 8 children, Dan dropped out of high school to become a top professional boxer in Canada. He then got a BA in social work. When he realized the young people he worked with needed more resources, he became a city councillor in order to support them.
Nationally, regionally, and locally has been definitive. The Nunavut Devolution, the Port of Churchill, the Musée de Saint-Boniface. He is deservedly proud of the work the Government of Canada did to make real progress and investments in reconciliation when he was an MP and minister. To many of his former staffers, he is still the boss. To his family, he is the devoted pépère. Pour moi.
To me, he's a friend. Thank you, Dan. Just a reminder, I know the person we're talking about, but we're not allowed to refer to the presence in the galleries of any particular individual.
For Calgary Nose Hill.
Canada's immigration system used to be the envy of the world, and like so much else, the Liberals broke it. Public support for immigration has collapsed as too many newcomers, too fast, made housing unaffordable, healthcare unavailable, and youth jobs impossible to find. As a government in waiting, this fall, Conservatives not only opposed failed mass migration policies, but also proposed concrete solutions to fix it, like ending the wage-depressing, opportunity-stealing temporary foreign worker program, ensuring that non-citizens convicted of serious crimes like sexual assault are deported, strengthening the value of Canadian citizenship by ending one-click virtual citizenship ceremonies, placing limitations on automatic citizenship for descendants of temporary residents, and preventing illegal migrants with bogus asylum claims from accessing benefits that most Canadians can't get. Mr. Speaker, let's be clear, while the Liberals support mass migration policies, Conservatives will always fight for Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Mont-Saint-Bruno, l'Acadie. Mr. Speaker, it's a great honour today for me to announce the creation of the Canada Democratic Republic of the Congo Interparliamentary Friendship Group. This group will provide a dynamic platform for dialogue, meetings, and greater cooperation in key areas like education, the Francophonie, energy transition, and student mobility. With a population of nearly 100 million, the DRC is now the world's largest French-speaking nation and a key partner in the French-speaking world. I'd like to thank my fellow parliamentarians who've already expressed their commitment to this initiative, and I invite all those who wish to do so to join us. Together, let's build strong bridges between our nations for a more stable, inclusive, and prosperous future. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Fort McMurray Cold Lake.
Thanks to these Liberals, this Christmas is looking bleak because so many Canadians' families' paychecks are too weak. With grinchy Liberal ways, Canadians face a bleary plight, high taxes and spending, stealing Christmas magic and light. And just like the Grinch swiped every morsel, decoration, and treat, Liberal inflation robs their joys, leaving families in defeat. While 2.2 million visit food banks month on month, they plead, hoping for a food hamper, a simple happy deed. These grinchy Liberals' hearts are oh so small. Disconnected from realities, Liberals let their families fall. But like little Cindy Lou, who made the Grinch's mind see, Christmas doesn't come from a store, it's so much more, you see. So our ask is simple, a change we hope they make. Listen to Conservatives for Canadian families' sake. Bring back affordability, let their hearts grow in size, and bring back Christmas joy right before our very eyes.
The Honourable Member for Cardigan.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge my family joining me in Ottawa today. Thank you for your love and support. And a special shout out to my sister, happy birthday. I want to extend my warmest holiday wishes to everyone across the Cardigan riding, Prince Edward Island, and indeed Canada. Especially to those volunteers and those working essential services throughout the holidays who are keeping our community safe, healthy, and supported. And to our farmers who work every day of the year to provide homegrown, nutritious food for Canadians and the entire world. And a very special thank you to our dairy farmers who ensure Santa has fresh milk to go with the cookies. This season reminds us of the strength we find in family, the support in community, and the progress we make when we come together for Canadians. When members of this House work with that same spirit, we can build Canada strong. To all members of this House, happy holidays and joyous Noel.
Oral questions.
All right, here we go. Question period.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Merry Christmas. It's the holiday season. It's a time of hope, and obviously the Conservative Party is the party of hope. And so we are sharing that hope with everyone today. But for too many people, life has become too expensive. There are single mothers and seniors who can't buy food, and the Prime Minister is threatening Canadians with a new increase in the gas tax, which will increase the cost of food. Will the Prime Minister, before Christmas, announce that he's going to cancel these hidden taxes on groceries so that Canadians can have hope to eat well? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, the Conservative Party, listen, there's nobody who calls that the party of hope. But in this holiday season, I would like to wish even to the Grinchy Leader of the Opposition a very Merry Christmas, and the same to the entire Conservative caucus. I hope that they'll stop imagining taxes that don't exist, taxes that have never existed and never will exist for Canadians. We're going to offer support to all Canadians. Merry Christmas, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, I had hoped that the Prime Minister was going to be here for once to defend. Even if it's Christmas, we can't allow ourselves to go against the rules. I'll have to take a question away from the Leader of the Opposition, and I'm sorry to do that, particularly at this time of the year. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. I just was hoping that for once he would defend the cost of living, which is going up because of the taxes that they're imposing on groceries. But it's not just that. There's also crime. The Liberals are blocking their own bail law. The Conservatives have moved motions 17 times in the last 2 days to get that bail law to be able to move forward. And the Liberals have caused these problems by freeing criminals with Bill C-75 before Christmas. Will they allow us to move forward their own law to reprove the damage they've done? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, just because it's the holiday season and everyone is feeling generous, well, Mr. Speaker, just because of that, you can't twist the facts. The Conservatives spent September, October, November, and December blocking the most ambitious crime-fighting agenda in the history of Canada, Mr. Speaker. And now, at the last minute, on the very last day, all of a sudden, they want to change everything, rearrange everything. We have bills for bail. We have bills to fight hate. We have bills to fight violence and extortion, Mr. Speaker. The Conservatives need to get out of the way.
Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, let me wish everyone a Merry Christmas, the time of hope. And of course, Conservatives are the party of hope. And we share that hope right across the House of Commons. As I do with the Prime Minister, inviting him to stand up. But unfortunately for many Canadians, it's the time of Liberal inflation. As they go down the grocery aisles, they see the costs of food rising before their eyes. As the Prime Minister increases hidden taxes on the cost of making and selling food. A 7 cents a litre gas tax he plans for the new year. Will he rise today and give Canadians some hope by announcing he's reversing that latest Liberal tax hike?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Speaker, rather than focusing on imaginary taxes like the opposition, we stay focused on helping Canadian families, and it's why Canada Child Benefit checks will be delivered early this year, Mr. Speaker. Early this month so that families can have the money when they need it most as they get ready for a happy holiday and Merry Christmas, Mr. Speaker. We're focused on supporting Canadians and Canadian families, something that I would hope a party that talks about hope would want to do.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the member might be suggesting that her own government department is imagining things again. I'm reading right here from the Environment Department's, quote, impacts of the CFR on gasoline and diesel prices. And for 2026, 7 cents a litre, Mr. Speaker. Oh, wow. Another tax increase on fuel. So while the Prime Minister promised to flip-flop on carbon taxes and copy Conservative ideas, once again, it's the costly counterfeit version on his side. That tax will increase the cost of producing and delivering food to grocery stores. For just in time for Christmas, will he get rid of this latest Liberal tax on energy and food?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change.
What we always seek more hope, and it will never come from the Conservatives, is actually for them to read a full report in its entirety and understand the actual implications. In fact, the fuel regulations do not have the impact as he described them, but let's go a little bit further. Let's talk about the opportunities, because I'm hoping he's thinking about canola farmers too. The regulation reduces emissions, but it creates opportunities for canola farmers. They have actually specifically said it is not a tax, and once more, it spurs innovation, creates opportunities. That's what we're about. That's what hope is about.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, it's very telling that the Prime Minister is not prepared to stand up and defend his own tax. But just to prove that it's another counterfeit, the Liberals say that a tax on the diesel farmers use is going to help farmers, just like releasing criminals, they say, will reduce crime. Mr. Speaker, Conservatives have been fighting to end Liberal bail for a very long time. The Liberals pretended to agree with us introducing a watered-down bail bill, but now they're blocking their own bill. Conservatives have moved 17 times to push the bail bill forward, and 17 times Liberals have blocked it, not 1 second of study at their own Justice Committee. Will they get out of the way so that we can scrap Liberal bail and bring safety by Christmas?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Well, Mr. Speaker, that leader lives in a bit of a parallel universe if he thinks that we are the ones in the way of the most ambitious crime-fighting agenda that has been presented to this Parliament ever. Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives are blocking progress on bail reform. They are blocking progress on immigration reform. They are blocking progress against extortion, child pornography, against all manner of crimes, Mr. Speaker. Will that leader stand up right now, turn around, tell his caucus, get out of the way of the Liberals fighting crime?
I took one question away because the honourable member broke a rule. We're now going to l'honorable député de Saint-Jean.
The honourable member for Saint-Jean.
Whoa.
Mr. Speaker.
Well, that's lame.
We're not ready to start. We'll restart. It was mentioned earlier when the rule was broken. The honourable member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, usually...
What the fuck? Polyev mentioned the Prime Minister. He just said simply, the Prime Minister. And he took away a question from him? I don't know. I guess he directly quoted just simply the Prime Minister. Like, I don't know. I'm so confused because now the interpreter is saying the Prime Minister.
The Liberals realize that Quebecers did not vote for Canada Inc.
He didn't even say anything. I honestly don't understand.
Minister of the Environment and Climate Change. Mr. Speaker, Canadians voted to build a Canada that's not only strong, but also to make sure that we build it well. And that's what we're doing. We have committed to strengthen the industrial price on carbon. We have made a commitment to strengthen methane regulations.
That must be a new rule or something. I have no idea. He just straight up took an entire question from him and moved right on. Told him to sit down and that was it.
Be doing the work that needs to be done. We are fighting climate change and we are building a Canada strong. The honourable member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals don't have a Prime Minister. They have a CEO. They're not listening to social priorities like healthcare, seniors, and their CEO isn't listening to the ministers. They have to resign to be heard, and they're not listening to voters with their conservative budget. They're not listening to Quebecers who voted for them out of fear of Donald Trump, and their attitude now to their relationship with Washington. To quote the CEO, who cares? The only difference is that a CEO in a private company with a deficit like this, they'd be fired. Will the Liberals remind their CEO that he's in a democratic parliament? The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If my colleague wants to talk about a record, we could talk about 180,000 jobs created in the country over the last 3 months. We could talk about the employment rate that's been going down month over month. Major investments like just this week, $19 billion, Microsoft in Canada. We can also talk about inflation that's within in the Bank of Canada's targets. And what's the Blocs record, Mr. Speaker? No asks for culture, no asks for the environment in the budget, and they even voted against the National School Food Program. They voted against investments in culture, Mr. Speaker. They voted against social programs for Quebec. The honourable member for Repentigny. Mr. Speaker, do you know what's generational in the Liberal record? Well, it's their betrayal of climate, their abandonment of all their green policies for an oil deal with Alberta. According to the former Environment Minister, it's a fire sale. Their shift to oil is going to sabotage any chance of achieving our greenhouse gas reduction targets over the long term. They're sacrificing all the efforts that older Quebecers have made, everything they've done for the climate, and they're telling younger people, well, deal with the problems. When the Liberals talk about generational issues, is this the generational legacy they want to leave? The Honourable Secretary of State for Nature. Mr. Speaker, I don't think that we can talk about a betrayal. The strategy is changing, but the targets remain the same. We, as a country, are going to meet our goals. But we need to face the changing reality in the world today. We are modifying our strategies, but the vision remains the same, and that's building Canada, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Calgary East.
Before telling Canadians to judge them by grocery prices, the Prime Minister should have removed hidden food taxes, like the industrial carbon tax, the Liberal fuel standard, and the food packaging tax. The verdict's in, and it's very expensive. An average family of 4 will pay an extra $1,000 in grocery costs next year. In fact, weekly groceries have doubled under the Liberals from $160 a week to $340 a week. Crazy. Do executives at Brookfield need to start lining up at food banks before this Prime Minister gives a damn about lowering food prices?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Here we go with imaginary taxes again, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if that leader actually cared about the economy, he wouldn't have spent the last 20 years in this House voting against it. On this side, we're not playing procedural games. We've been governing. We passed an historic budget to build our economy. They hid behind the curtains. The proof is in the pudding, Mr. Speaker. In the face of a trade war, our economy is growing. We've added 180,000 jobs in 3 months alone. I hope his heart grows 2 sizes big. He becomes more focused on affordability for Canadians. Let's get on with building the economy. Thanks, Mr.
The Honourable Member for Abbotsford South Langley.
Speaker, the Liberals are failing Canadians on housing. They're breaking their promise of 500,000 new homes per year, and their fourth housing bureaucracy is a mess, with their independent budget watchdog confirming it will only build 5,000 homes per year. Buyers can't buy, sellers can't sell, and builders can't build. Yet the Liberals refuse to adopt our Conservative plan to axe the GST on all new homes built under $1.3 million to boost building immediately. Why is that when the Liberals promise, things get more expensive every time and things stay same again and again?
Great question.
The Honourable Minister for Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I've got some good news to share with the House. Just this Monday, the Prime Minister and Mayor Sutcliffe announced a new partnership with the City of Ottawa. Excellent. 3,000 mixed-income affordable homes that will be built across the city. And through this joint investment, the City of Ottawa will fast-track the construction of 2,000 units of mixed income and affordable housing on federal lands. Build Canada Homes will be financing 1,000 affordable homes from the City of Ottawa's slate of projects. This is fantastic news, streamlining the approvals and getting homes built fast.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Nose Hill. The Honourable Member for Calgary Nose Hill.
The amount of space he takes up in your guys' head
This
is
fall,
really something.
the Liberals voted against the most comprehensive immigration reforms in recent history, despite their promise to get immigration under control. Conservative proposals presented would have boosted wages and opportunities for Canadian youth by ending the temporary foreign worker program, ensuring non-citizens convicted of serious crimes like sexual assault are deported, and preventing illegal immigrants with bogus asylum claims from accessing benefits that Canadians don't get. Why is it that the more that the Liberals say they're going to change, the results are always higher costs, more crime, fewer homes, and more of the same?
The Honourable Minister of Citizenship, Refugees, Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. We have an immigration plan that is sustainable and strategic. This plan will attract the best international talent to build a strong economy. It will bring in high-level researchers to Canada. It will help us invest in recognizing foreign credentials, and it will also help us build Francophone and rural communities. We have bills C2 and C12 to protect our borders and strengthen our immigration system. I invite the opposition to support those measures.
Honourable Member for Barrie South, Innisfil.
We found out today the Prime Minister's signature major projects office is directing Bay Street corporations, capital investors and banks to lend or second staff to the MPO asking the companies to top up their pay. Here's how greasy this is. Banks, energy, mining companies, and Brookfield could end up with employees on the inside of the MPO, giving them the inside track and advice on projects they're working on, while these companies pay their salaries and provide lucrative bonuses. Under this scheme, just to spell this out, the Prime Minister's corporate buddies will be paying to have insiders work at the MPO. How is this ethical?
The Honourable Minister responsible for Canada-U.S. trade.
Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we want to thank our friend for his excellent conspiracy theory work. Mr. Speaker, we think that only the Conservatives would be shocked. Only the Conservatives would be shocked that quality women and men with experience in the private sector would step forward to work with a government that's going to build Canada strong, get major projects done. We're proud of the people that want to come forward and serve Canadians, and we regret that the Conservatives find that somehow a problem.
The Honourable Member for Barrie South Innisfil.
Prime Minister's Bay Street buddies that are sounding the alarm, Mr. Speaker. If you're on Bay Street and you want a mine built, no problem, because you can pay to send an employee to the Prime Minister's Major Projects Office to help you. Want a reactor built? No problem, because you can pay to send an employee to the Prime Minister's Major Project Office to help you. Are you a large capital investor, say like, I don't know, Brookfield, and you want to fund a green project that pads the Prime Minister's portfolio? No problem, because you can pay to send an employee to the Prime Minister's Major Project Office to help you. This is wrong, unethical, and corrupt. How is this happening?
Honourable Minister.
Again, Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, I remember being an opposition member of Parliament. I was very impressed with some of the quality people from Bay Street that former Prime Minister Harper recruited to serve as Chief of Staff in his office, for example. So it wasn't a scandal then when people with business experience could serve in the government. And we're proud, Mr. Speaker, we're proud that this government and this Prime Minister is able to recruit that talent to join the talented women and men in Canada's public service to get things done and to grow the Canadian economy.
The Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes.
While this Prime Minister and his government are looking to stack their major project office with corporate insiders and then have corporations send money to the major project office, Canadians are lined up at food banks in record numbers. Now, the firms paying those so-called top-ups to government employees are the same ones who are going to benefit from fast-track decisions made by the major project office. Why is it that the only pipeline that they're getting built is one that funnels cash from Bay Street to this Prime Minister's major project office?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, several years ago, that member earned the nickname the Death Valley Well Driller. The Death Valley Well Driller is that lonely guy out in the desert who's gone looking for water and never finds it. And here he is, once again, winding up the big pitch, and it all ends in nothing, Mr. Speaker. Of course, there are talented men and women joining with the government. We're going to help build the country. We're going to build Canada strong, notwithstanding the naysayers and the Death Valley well drillers.
The Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes.
Mr. Speaker, we've seen the depths of the corruption from these Liberals, and we've seen it with these ministers, including those who sit in the front bench today, who've been found to have broken Canada's ethics laws. And this Prime Minister is the one who has the market cornered on shadow lobbying, and now it looks very much like he's inviting more of his Bay Street buddies to have the inside track and have Bay Street pay for access so that his government can fast-track their projects. Canadians are lined up at food banks, and Liberal insiders are lined up at the Prime Minister's front door. Why won't...
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, it's easy to dream up conspiracies about everything when you've never built anything. When you've never built anything. We should be proud that good, hardworking people from the business community want to come to this government and work to build this country strong.
The honourable member for Côte Nord, Kawawa Chikimak Nitassinan. Mr. Speaker, for Quebecers, the approach of the holiday season is a time of generosity towards those less fortunate. I'm sorry, I didn't understand what happened. There's no interpretation? No? Okay, we'll start again. The honourable member. Mr. Speaker, for Quebecers, the approach of the holiday season is a time of generosity towards those less fortunate. But for the Liberals, well, it's not so clear, because they're cutting $25 million in Quebec for help for people experiencing homelessness. Last Thursday, the minister confirmed that he's ending the Encampment and Crisis Response Program as of March 31st. How? In the middle of winter, can the government announce cuts to the fight against homelessness when the crisis has never been so serious? The Honourable Minister of Health. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would just like to note to my colleague across the way that the Government of Canada has put in place the Canada Dental Plan, which is having a major impact on the lives of Canadians. 6 million Canadians are already covered by this program, including the most vulnerable. Many people are able to see dentists and dental hygienists for the first time in their lives. I would invite my colleague from across the way and all colleagues to ask all members of their ridings to sign up for the dental plan. The honourable member for Shefford. Well, I think she got the wrong answer there, Mr. Speaker. $25 million a year is nothing compared to an $80 billion deficit. It makes no sense to cut funding for the fight against homelessness. This is tens of thousands of dollars less for each one of our community organizations at a time when they know that the crisis is affecting more and more vulnerable people. This includes women who now represent about 30% of people living in homelessness. That's double the numbers that we've seen in the past. Frankly, is this really the time to cut funding to Quebec and to our organizations? The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague. This is an important question. Homelessness in the country and in Quebec is particularly concerning. That's why we have a homelessness strategy. It's been in place for a few years with major investments. I would ask my colleague to look at the budget for 2025, which she voted against. There's $1.1 billion for transitionary housing for people living in situations of homelessness, and to also help prevent people fall into homelessness. I would invite her to review her position on budget 2025 and support us in our efforts to fight homelessness. The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, here in this House, all members have to follow the values and ethics codes for members of Parliament. And in the Conflict of Interest Act, it says that it is prohibited for a public office holder to personally solicit funds if doing so places them in a conflict of interest. The Permanent Anti-Corruption Unit in Quebec is now conducting an investigation into the Liberal funny business scandal, the Fling Flang scandal, here in Ottawa. It's a criminal investigation. 2 weeks ago, the Liberal member for Laval-Les-Îles promised TVA that he would make a statement to explain his involvement in this affair. Does the member for Laval-Les-Îles have the courage to stand up and explain to Quebecers his potential involvement in the Fling Flang affair? Unfortunately, I was a bit distracted during the question. I didn't hear the question. We'll see. I will listen again to the question this time. Well, listen closely, Mr. Speaker. Listen very closely. Well, listen, it's one of your members. It's because of one of your members. It was one of your members who was speaking to me. So, listen, we'll be careful with the sarcasm, okay? All right. The honourable member can start again. Listen closely, Mr. Speaker. Here in this House, all members are subject to the Conflict of Interest Code for members of Parliament. And it's clearly stated in the Conflict of Interest Act that, and I quote, it's prohibited for a public office holder to personally solicit funds if doing so places them in a conflict of interest. The Permanent Anti-Corruption Unit in Quebec is now conducting an investigation into the Liberal kickback fling-flang scandal in Ottawa. No, but... We haven't spoken about a member of the government, a member of cabinet. It doesn't appear to me to be relevant to the administration of the federal government, but I will let the government choose to respond if it wishes. The next question, the honourable member for Charlebourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. Well, right now, the Permanent Anti-Corruption Unit is studying the Liberal fling-flang scandal in Ottawa. Just a moment, please. Just a moment. Just a moment, please.
Bro, what is going on? Alright, well, they're screwing around with whatever that is. A home in the Bay Area apparently just, like, exploded. This is happening right now. I think the Bay Area is in California. I think. I could be wrong. But, yeah.
Of the federal government, I'm not aware of what UPAC would be investigating in this case. If it's the same, it seems like it's the same question as the previous question. Mr. Speaker, I'll ask another question, Mr. Speaker. Because the media is talking about this everywhere. The member for Laval-Les-Îles said to TVA that he would explain his involvement in this scandal, which is currently being studied by UPAC. But my question, Mr. Speaker, now is on the Prime Minister's decision to choose Mike Wiseman to become the next ambassador for Canada to the United States, knowing very well that Mike Wiseman has already said that he was the creator of the Century Initiative, which wants to see 100 million people in Canada in 2100. And he said that he didn't care what Quebec had to say about it. And Mr. Wiseman is against supply management. Can the Prime Minister change his mind and not appoint Mark Wiseman as ambassador? The Honourable Minister for Canada-US Relations. Mr. Speaker, for the fourth time, our colleague is lucky. His question was in order this time, yet he has some challenges with the facts. He's talking about people who are not in the government, public policy that is not government policy. He knows very well that our government supports supply management. Under no circumstances will we negotiate supply management with the Americans. So despite what he's trying to do, we understand that the facts are still a bit loose here.
The honourable member for Bellechasse-Lévis. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Food banks are overflowing, but the Prime Minister seems to be living in another universe. While Canadians are struggling to put food on the table, this Liberal Prime Minister spent $736,000 taxpayer dollars on a private jet, Mr. Speaker, even though a perfectly good government plane was available for a third of the price. 86% of Canadians have to go without meat because they can no longer afford to buy it. When will he stop making us pay for his whims while the world goes hungry? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Those who live in another universe are Conservative MPs, like my colleague who voted against measures that help her constituents, like the dental plan for 20,000 people. There's also the childcare benefit that reduced poverty in young people by 38%. I would like her to come to my riding so we can talk about the positive impact these policies have had on Quebecers, and she's constantly voted against. The honourable member for Bellechasse-Lévis. Well, I will speak to him about the consequences of his policies. A 75-year-old senior in my riding spends more than half of her income on rent and medicine. Recently, this person found themselves in front of a grocery shelf thinking, I can't afford this, and she had to leave in tears. She said to a food bank, I'm ashamed, I've worked all my life and I never thought I'd have to ask for food assistance. That is the reality on the ground, Mr. Speaker. That's the reality of their policy. The Honourable Minister. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Votes speak louder than what she has to say, because she voted against an increase of the guaranteed income supplement that helps the most vulnerable seniors. She voted against the childcare benefit, against the dental care plan, against a tax break for a tax reduction for 22 million Canadians. She voted against affordable housing. I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker, but in the next year, they should perhaps check themselves and see how they can help Canadians and Quebecers. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
For Winnipeg West.
Mr. Speaker, the Early Learning Child Care Program is already providing families across Canada with thousands of dollars of savings each year. In my own province of Manitoba, the program saves families an average of $2,800 a year. Last month, the Minister of Jobs and Families announced an extension of child care agreements with Saskatchewan and Ontario, ensuring that families in those two provinces continue to have access to this incredible program. Could the Minister please update us on the status of the early learning and child care in Alberta?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Well, good news, Mr. Speaker, and just in time for Christmas, tomorrow we'll be signing the extension of the Early Learning and Childcare Agreement with Alberta. And now all provinces and territories have agreed to continue this important program. That means in Alberta, childcare costs have been reduced to $15 per day, and it saves families on average $7,600 per year, Mr. Speaker. So that's money that families have to put on mortgages, to buy groceries, to save for their children's education, or even pay for hockey. Merry Christmas, Alberta.
The Honourable Member for Brantford, Brant South, Six Nations.
Mr. Speaker, Conservatives have asked the Liberals 17 times at the Justice Committee to start working on the bail bill. We moved 17 motions to get to bail, and 17 times the Liberals blocked it. They voted against our Jail Not Bail Act, they voted against our three strikes motion, and now they're blocking their own bill. At what point will this government stop voting against every single measure to finally scrap Liberal bail?
Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, I'd remind the honourable member that what he calls Liberal bail is supported by the Canadian Police Association, the Ontario Police Association, the police chief in my community, and the police chief in his community. In fact, when his police chief showed up at committee, he urged all members, including the Conservative Party, to actually accelerate the process. He is citing revisionist history. If you go back and look at the tapes, you'll see that he and his colleagues spent the entire fall filibustering, talking about kittens and puppies, not crime and safety. Mr. Speaker, we are here to defend Canada's communities and the people who call them home. I wish the Conservatives would get out of the way and do something to promote public safety in this country.
The Honourable Member for Brantford, Brant South, Six Nations.
Perhaps this minister should actually show up at the Justice Committee and see what his colleagues are doing. We show up ready to fix the Liberals' broken bail system. But after more than 17 attempts to prioritize C-14, the answer from the Liberals is always no. It is clear this government is unwilling to take even modest steps towards keeping Canadians safe. And still today, they continue to block tougher bail measures at every turn. When will they stop obstructing so we can finally scrap Liberal bail once and for all, Mr. Speaker?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, after several months of obstruction and delay getting in the way of measures to improve public safety, my honourable colleague has finally realized that people are seeing that it is he and his colleagues who have been delaying and denying justice from advancing in this country. Right now we have an opportunity not just to move forward on bail and sentencing reform, but he's actively delaying legislation that is meant to help communities who are seeing their synagogues defaced, who are seeing their mosques attacked, who are seeing communities face harassment and assault in our grocery stores and on our university campuses. We can combat hate and reform the bail system at the same time. I wish he, for once, would cooperate.
The honourable member for Elgin, St. Thomas, London South.
Speaker, it's difficult day in, day out, and see the Liberals claim to have the solutions for the problems they've created. For the last 48 hours, Liberals have rejected 17 attempts by Conservative members to advance critical bail reforms because they won't get off their desire to attack the religious freedoms of Canadians. Canadians want real reforms to bail, not Liberal obstruction. When will the Liberals get serious about real crime instead of thought crime?
The Honourable Minister of Justice. Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, the member from Elgin St. Thomas, London South, has been the main culprit that's been filibustering all the crime bills in the Justice Committee this season, Mr. Speaker. He's been talking about cats and dogs when hate crimes have gone up over 70% in this country. And the reason we brought this bill was to help protect those worshippers, Mr. Speaker. We're doing everything on this side of the House to protect Canadians, to protect public safety, and they've been opposing. They've been stalling. They've been blocking it, Mr. Speaker.
Elgin, St. Thomas, London South.
I will not allow the Secretary of State to point fingers when the very communities she's claiming to be speaking for have been the ones to cry.
You're not going to allow it?
The honourable member may start from the top.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will not allow that Secretary of State to point fingers for...
I think we're going to hear that line many more times if it continues to be too noisy on this side. The honourable member for Elgin St. Thomas, London South from the top, please.
Secretary of State is pointing fingers because she doesn't want to look at the millions of fingers that have been pointing at this Liberal government for allowing these problems to fester. Even today, Liberal members of the Justice Committee said that the Minister of Justice would only come before committee if we agreed to wave through their divisive and toxic Bill C-9. Why are they putting conditions on transparency and accountability and obstructing their own legislation? Why won't the Minister of Justice appear before committee, and why won't he stand up now instead of pointing fingers?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, it's just a fact that the member from Elgin St. Thomas, London South, has been blocking all crime bills in the Justice Committee since the beginning of this Parliament, Mr. Speaker. He's been talking about his pets instead of talking about the safety of Canadians, Mr. Speaker. But this is a clear pattern that we're seeing from the Conservatives, Mr. Speaker. They've been weak on crime since they've gotten here. They've been blocking the bail reform bill, Mr. Speaker. They've been blocking protections for peaceful worshippers, and they won't allow the police the powers they need to stop extortionists and pedophiles, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Oxford.
Under these Liberals, food prices have doubled and Canadians are struggling to get by. There are now 2.2 million food bank visits in a single month, with 1 in 10 of those users being seniors. Paul, a 70-year-old from Woodstock, was forced out of retirement and is now working night shifts to stock the shelves just so he could survive, Mr. Speaker. The seniors that helped build this country are now the ones that are struggling to afford to live in it. So will the Liberals finally stop driving costs up so our seniors could afford to eat and retire with dignity?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Sport.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, remember when the Grinch tried to steal Christmas? He drove all the way up to the top of Mount Crumpet because he had everything that he needed, and he was going to throw the gifts that the Who's deserved because he thought they didn't deserve to have nice things. It's kind of like the leader of the Conservative Party, Mr. Speaker. For 25 years, he's had dental care because he's had a job here in the House of Commons. So he votes against dental care for 9 million Canadians. He's got secure housing. He lives comfortably at Stornoway in government-owned housing, so he votes against affordable housing for millions and millions of Canadians. My Christmas wish is that the leader of the Conservative Party comes back in January with a heart that's grown 3 sizes and tries to help a Canadian for once in his 21-year career.
The honourable member for Oxford.
I once promised that hard work meant a great life, but with these Liberals, that promise Christmas is gone. Ryan, a single father from Thamesford, worked extremely hard, but is struggling to put food on the tables. He's struggling to put gas in his car, and he's struggling to keep his house warm for Christmas. And just like millions of other Canadians, he is now relying on a food bank to feed his families. With grocery prices going up $1,000, will the Liberals finally stop their reckless inflationary spending, scrap their hidden food taxes, so our citizens like Ryan can afford to eat once again?
Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
We know Bob Humbug is just a name for the opposition leader's management style. And thank God the human emotion of joy is not deductible, because the Conservatives would find a way to claw it back right before Christmas. They won't feed children. They won't help us feed children in school. They won't help us build affordable housing. They won't help us give and deliver families a well-earned tax break before Christmas. What's next? The Christmas tree? Are they going to try and take that away too? Even the Grinch had the good sense to give people the presents back before Christmas. When will this Conservative Party stand up and actually support Canadians? They said they were Canada first. Why do they put them last every chance they get?
The honourable member for Long Range Mountain.
While Canadians cannot afford the basics, this Liberal Prime Minister spent nearly $800,000 on a private jet. In Newfoundland and Labrador, we have the highest unemployment rate in the country. At more than 10%, families are stretched thin. Canada's food price report shows the grocery bill has more than doubled since 2015, rising from $159 a week to $338. And next year, families are expected to pay even more. When will these Liberals stop their inflationary spending, cut the industrial carbon tax and their new fuel tax so Canadians can afford to eat?
The Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Oceans.
Mr. Speaker, I am so pleased to be able to stand and address the misinformation, the imaginary taxes, and the general disengagement from what matters in our province of Newfoundland and Labrador. Budget 2025 is about investment. It's about building this country. It is investments in rural Newfoundland and Labrador like the rest of the country. Roads, bridges, schools, hospitals. It is support for families, 46,000 families in our province who need the Canada Child Benefit, indexed to inflation. This member voted against all of these.
The honourable member for Long Range Mountain.
That answer is not acceptable, and I'm going to tell you why. A woman in my riding shared a moment that she said she will never forget. She was in the grocery store. She saw a senior couple standing at the meat counter. The elderly wife looked at her husband and quietly said, "I know I need to buy something, but I don't know what to buy because everything is so expensive." The woman who witnessed this exchange told me she went to her car and cried. She never thought she would see seniors in Newfoundland and Labrador struggling like that. When will the Prime Minister finally take these struggles seriously and make life affordable for the people in Newfoundland and Labrador?
Well, maybe the people out east should stop voting Liberal.
Speaker, I'm going to deal in facts. Supports for seniors are indexed to inflation. Housing supports help seniors find affordable places to live. Supports for families and communities in Newfoundland and Labrador. School food program, which another member from Newfoundland and Labrador called garbage, feeds children. $800 a year for a family of two in savings. On and on I can go, and on and on and on. The Conservative members vote against everything that supports families and seniors.
The honourable member for Souris Mountain.
Mr. Speaker, across Saskatchewan, families are being crushed by soaring grocery prices. I recently spoke with a family farm, people who feed this country and the world. Yet after paying their bills, they now rely on a local food bank to get by. This should never happen in a country like Canada. And this Liberal government should be ashamed that there are now 27 cases of scurvy in Saskatchewan because people cannot afford healthy food after 10 years of Liberal inflation and higher taxes. How does this government defend a record where farm families need food banks and Canadians are now being diagnosed with scurvy?
Good question.
Okay, let's see if we can listen to the entire answer without making any noise. The Honourable Secretary of State for Rural Development.
Speaker, like any serious disease, this government will respond to it. We will work, Mr. Speaker, with all the officials involved, including our provincial counterparts. But I want to say to our House Leader, he has a very kind heart. He said at some of your interventions as answering the last questions, be kind, he said. So I'm going to say I wish you all the gift of greater tolerance for all people. In the new year, I wish the Conservatives place the priorities of Canada above your own political agenda. In this new year...
The Honourable Secretary of State knows that he must address the House through the chair. The Honourable Member for Pierrefonds-Dollard.
Mr. Speaker, in the Great North and Arctic, families face some of the highest costs of living for housing and basic necessities. In just a few months, our new government has announced several affordability measures for Canadians as well as in the North. Can the Minister of Northern and Arctic Affairs share how our government is working, including on the issue of Bill C4's affordability measures, to deliver financial relief to northern communities across that need it most?
Honourable Minister for Northern and Arctic Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, for the first time in generations, we're making historic investments in housing and infrastructure across the North, building homes and roads and community facilities. We're investing in clean energy, better internet, and stronger transportation links, all in partnership with Indigenous communities. So Bill 4 delivers tax cuts, GST housing credits, and enhanced benefits so families can heat their homes and feed their children. This is generational change for the North, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Dufferin-Caledon.
Yesterday at committee, the Finance Minister condescendingly said he was a lawyer and he'd be happy to explain the Stellantis contract. Well, Mr. Speaker, you don't have to be a lawyer or even an accountant to know that 4,475 jobs is less than 8,000 jobs. These guys, these incompetent Liberals, signed a contract with Stellantis that was going to pay them billions of dollars, and it guaranteed 4,400 jobs when Stellantis at the time had 8,000 jobs. This allowed Stellantis to fire 3,000 workers and ship the jobs down to the United States. How do they explain this unbelievable level of incompetence?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Industry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We signed that deal on behalf of this government for every worker, every employee, every member of that community. And Stellantis broke that deal, so in our opinion, they are in default. We are going to get that money back, or the jobs are coming back, period.
The Honourable Member for Dufferin-Caledon.
Yeah, except when Stellantis was at committee, they said they're not in default of the contract. So they're probably relying on the section in the contract that said they would guarantee 4,475 jobs, when at the time the company had 8,000 jobs. 4,475 jobs is about 3,500 less than 8,000. I know that's hard for these Liberals to comprehend, and that's why they feel like when they fired 3,000 workers, they're not in default. And guess who benefits again from this? Donald Trump in America, where all those jobs went, along with a $13 billion investment from Stellantis. What?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Industry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Instead of repeating Stellantis talking points and talking points from south of the border, perhaps the party on the other side should be joining with us to agree that the company is in default, and they should be joining us in encouraging the company to come to the table and either return those jobs or give our money back, period.
Oh, quiet.
The Honourable Member for Windsor-Tecumseh Lakeshore.
Mr. Speaker, at Industry Committee again yesterday, the Finance Minister falsely claimed there were, quote, the strongest protections for auto jobs at Stellantis. Well, we all know the outcome of that, 3,000 job losses in Brampton and $13 billion of investment by Stellantis in the United States. The contract was so badly written that the job numbers were only, quote, aspirational with no penalties. How can the Liberals claim they're supporting auto workers when there are 0 job guarantees in the contract?
The Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Speaking of jobs for the good people of Brampton, Ontario, this new government is making a record $2 billion federal investment for the new SMR energy project in Darlington, Ontario. This will create 18,000 new jobs. Our energy sector is world-renowned. We'll continue to open doors for new exports around the world. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Mississauga East, Cooksville.
Mr. Speaker, while the Conservatives stand in the way of progress, our government is relentless in delivering for Canadians, including by bringing forward 2 pieces of trade diversification legislation this parliamentary session. Trade diversification benefits the entire country, which is why we're moving swiftly to advance the trade deal with Indonesia, a market of 275 million people. Can the minister share how the Canadian-Indonesian trade agreement will create real opportunities for Canadian businesses and workers?
The Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague through you for his good work on the International Trade Committee and, of course, for the good people of Mississauga. Indonesia is the 8th largest economy in the world with a population of over 280 million potential consumers. The trade agreement that we tabled this morning will cut tariffs and open new opportunities in aerospace, agri-food, agriculture, critical minerals, and so much more. Together, we're opening doors for Canadian workers, Canadian businesses, and Canadian products to new global markets around the world. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Riding Mountain.
Mr. Speaker, on October 2nd, the Health Minister's Assistant Deputy Minister for Controlled Substances told the Health Committee that no federal funding was used to buy crack pipes. Yet this week, the very same official was caught lying to committee when she revealed that Health Canada was in fact buying crack pipes with tax dollars. Wow. If an average Canadian lies on a government forum, they face real consequences. So, can the Health Minister tell us what consequences her senior official will face for lying to Parliament about funding crack pipes?
L'Honorable Ministre de la Santé.
Monsieur le Président, mon collègue de l'opposition.
My colleague across the way knows full well that we don't fund any publicly served crack pipes. And he knows it full well because he keeps ragging on about it at committee.
The honourable member for Nunavut.
What the fuck is going on? What is going on?
Nation's rights. Let's be clear, this decision is not about taking land from private owners. The federal government must focus its efforts on reconciliation and honor of the Crown. Will the minister convene negotiations with all affected parties to ensure an orderly transition toward respecting the ancestral, spiritual, cultural rights of the Cowichan Nation?
The Honourable Minister for Crown Indigenous Relations.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, we will continue to work collaboratively with all parties to uphold the principles of reconciliation, transparency, and legal responsibility. We remain available for dialogue with all parties involved. That involves British Columbia, the City of Richmond, Musqueam Indian Band, Tsawwassen First Nation, as well as the Cowichan. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Winnipeg Centre.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals are promising massive profits to resource extraction companies by fast-tracking projects on Indigenous lands while investing nothing in community safety. Violence against Indigenous women and girls spikes around man camps, including sexual assault, trafficking, and child sexual exploitation, a reality that was confirmed in the National Inquiry into Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls. Yet this year's budget offers zero. Do our lives matter, Mr. Speaker, or is this government going to turn their back on us yet again?
The Honourable Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations.
The crisis of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls is unacceptable, and our government is taking concrete action. Through the National Action Plan and the federal pathway, we are funding new shelters and safe spaces, supporting Indigenous-led safety programs, improving policing standards, and advancing culturally grounded services for families and survivors. We know progress must be faster, We will continue working directly with Indigenous partners to implement the calls for justice and deliver real, measurable change. This is our...
The point of order, the honourable member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes.
Speaker, while Standing Order 18 is of interest in respect to the government House Leader calling me the Death Valley Well Digger, what I would say through the Speaker is that I'll stop digging if they stop burying stuff.
Okay.
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Oh, here we go.
Mr. Speaker, for the record, it is Death Valley Well Driller.
I think this is debate. L'honorable député de Berthier-Mascouin.
The honourable member for Berthier-Mascouin. Thank you. I have
Oh, the blocker here to cry about the climate.
With all due respect.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker. The weather wasn't the way I liked it today.
Refused earlier. First of all, Mr. Speaker, again, with all due respect, I believe that questions can be legitimate if they are raising concerns about people that have previously been members in this House. May I speak? May I?
Honestly, no. No, you can't. That's going to do it for me, ladies and gentlemen. Today's live stream has come to an end at 3 hours. 3 hours. That's an extended live stream from the usual. I will be live again on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday going forward. The usual schedule at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But the streams will be shorter. There will be no question period. The streams might even be shorter than an hour sometimes, depending on if there's literally anything going on at all. And if there's nothing going on, I might not even go live. So, there's... Let's see here. There's roughly 7 weeks, I think. The rest of December, leading into... Yeah, like roughly 7 weeks of nothing. So, I'll have to see what goes on, if anything at all. Like I said, the streams will be shorter, the topics might be more dull or boring. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Anyway, I will be live again, though, on Monday. Take it easy, everybody. Have a great rest of your day or night.